Yeah. 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 So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You want an unbiased opinion, getting straight from the chest. Not a bit of accomplice or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge. They don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like. Wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because their agendas are disguised. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifting. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hello, everyone. It is Pam Esquire, also known as your law intellect, and I am exhausted. Okay. I am exhausted. We just got in from our flight at like midnight, and then I had court this morning. But because I have not been on to talk about day 5,555 of this court hearing, I know I'm exaggerating, but it feels like this has been just as long as the YSL trial. I'm like, when is this trial going to end? Can we wrap this up? Can we wrap this Diddy trial up in the next 48 hours? But anyway, there's been a lot that's happened. I know you guys have been watching, probably other creators, about this whole Diddy trial, and there's a lot going on. Okay. The last couple of days, Jane Doe was on the stand. Kind of glad she's off the stand. I said that a couple of days ago because she was wearing me out. She was exhausting me. She was getting on my nerves because it was just all over the place. It was a lot of people had mixed feelings from what I gathered about the testimony because it just seemed so self-serving. So Jane Doe, don't put who she is. A couple of the things that I thought was interesting, because I'm just going to do little recaps on that, but we do have an agent and a former assistant who I believe also took the fifth. I mean, almost everybody on the stand took the fifth, okay? So they pled the fifth, so they got immunity. Jane Doe apparently also got immunity. So if you were in this trial, we know who they want. Sean Diddy Combs. But what was interesting to me, and I think that's what was trending more so yesterday, was about an alleged celebrity who is an icon, and Jane Doe, on her own volition, when she and Diddy were on a break, she went with her homegirl. See, Jane and these homegirls, Jane ain't nobody's friend, okay, in my opinion. All right. So Jane goes with her homegirl who is dating this major rapper. They go to Vegas. They come in the room. And Don, who is one of the escorts that Diddy and Jane Doe use, just happened to be in that room getting it in. And so 7 of them decided they wanted to watch. So they just watching. So now Diddy's not even there. But you decide you want to watch this same activity without Diddy. But you were forced and you wasn't like this and you felt like a hoe and all this other stuff. So you watch them. Then you decide it was a good time to flash your boobs. Then this disrespectful arse rapper comes to you and says, I've always wanted to F you. I've had a crush on you. You're gorgeous. Then ask her, probably peeping out what she into, trying to fish. Hey, do you know anybody that'll do what they doing right there? Me and my girl, we've been thinking about it. And you, who claim you've never contacted any of these escorts outside of the presence of Diddy, you decide to say, hold on, let me go look at my contacts. Let me go look at my contacts so I can pull up somebody for you that I think is discreet. Y'all giving out these escorts as if you asking, who do you get your insurance for your car from? Who do you recommend to be a dentist? Who bakes good cakes? She pulls it out and she texts, "Hey, you busy? I got somebody for you. This would be my suggestion." And then then what was getting me about the government is the defense wanted the name to come out on who it was. See, this is what makes me think that this might be a lot bigger than we think it is. Like they trying to shut all this down that people are doing, that some of these celebrities in Hollywood are doing. Because you name Young Miami with no problem, who is also a rapper. You named Gina. You named Chelsea. You name all these different people. But then when it comes to this rapper, the government is fighting to keep their name quiet. See, the government doesn't do or say anything without an agenda. So I'm like, what is up their sleeve? So then, similar to what everyone did with, the ones that testified, Mia and Jane Doe, folk was looking back like, who was in Vegas? They Google, what celebrity was in Vegas in January 2024? Then people found pictures of some individuals. And then all these names came in. Then on top of that, she got some money from somebody. This Jane Doe got some money from somebody named Bear, who just gave her $9,000 for no reason. Then after all of this testimony, you get into the whole, and you cannot tell me she was not coached. So I thought it said 2 to 4 times. She was prepped. She talked to the government 24 times. You don't need to talk to anybody that long for your story. But I thought it was interesting. It was certain buzzwords she just used all the time. So it was like, me and my partner. Yes, when I say I had a great time, I wasn't talking about the whole day. I was just talking about this one little section with my partner. Yes, I enjoyed doing the freak offs, but it was only because my partner was so happy. And then I know I could be with him for 30 minutes after the fact. But I say the whole day, even though I really was only happy the 30 minutes I was with my partner. And she repeated this over and over and over again, which makes me think this was something on how you can answer this question when they say, well, in this text, you say you liked it. Well, I didn't like it at all. I just wanted it to be with my partner. Then on direct examination, and this is how you know, like, y'all listen. Direct examination. All this crying. Then on cross, all of a sudden, you done got your courage juice. All right. And now you going toe to toe, getting smart, saying slick stuff, saying what you not gonna answer and how you not gonna answer it, how you don't have to answer. Well, you was just crying and needed a whole box of Kleenex yesterday. Now all of a sudden you can talk about this and say it with your chest when you're saying it. Very defensive. It was very telling. Then when all of this concludes, I cannot forget the incident where you read Cassie's lawsuit. And after Cassie's lawsuit, interestingly enough, you see he ain't, now all this time Sean Combs has never put his hands on you. Never put his hands on you. But then suddenly, you see in a lawsuit that this man was smacking up Cassie. You seen in this lawsuit that this man is accused of beating her at a hotel. Now, mind you, a lot of stuff in this Cassie lawsuit ain't matching with a lot of the testimony and with her. Some of it's not anyway. But nonetheless, you see that this man ain't got no problem putting his hands on you. And you get upset because a man that told you was in an open relationship is with other women. And so Young Miami was like a trigger. She heard Young Miami. She was, ooh, like she just went off. She just did not like like something about the way. And I explained what it was, what the difference is. She's trying to explain, what did I do wrong that he want me to be a secret? I want you to figure that out, ma'am. Figure it out. You started the precedent the first day you met this man when you went with your girl to, and then you end up talking to a dude she messing with. So you kind of you set the stage for it, for you being treated how he looked at you. All right. So then this man ain't got no problem dragging women by their hair, or not gonna say women. I'm just gonna say Cassie that we saw. And you felt like your reaction when you was pissed and fed up was to take this man's head and bash it into a marble table. Then start throwing candles and bottles. And what made you even start doing that? What made you think, well, let me add a little bit of violence to it? What? Huh? I just couldn't even, and the whole scenario was just crazy. After a while, you hitting on him, he hits you back or whatever. You run in the room, you lock doors, you hide in closets. Then you start running and running and running and running, and then you try to get away and you stay gone for whatever amount of time. Then you come back and he's still there. And then she in the shower. Now, when Cross came, you in the shower calling, he come in and you like, you ain't shh. You going off on this man, calling him all up out of his name. And then after a while, Diddy said, oh, she got me twisted. And smack her a couple of times. I just like, why would you even? Then you say you was treated badly. And then on Cross, they like, well, were you treating Diddy nice? Like, you think calling somebody out their name and slamming their heads and tables and stuff, like, you think that's nice? Well, I guess not. Maybe not. Maybe I wasn't always so nice. I'm telling you, Miami was triggering her. Like, when that happened, because I think she felt like it was a taunting. I'm secret. You're public with her. You done bought her a Maybach. I don't even want to ever look at a Chanel again, because God forbid you buy somebody a Chanel bag. Then you see Gina, who has been a thorn in everybody's side. It looks like she was the problem with Cassie because she wouldn't go away. Then I guess she's the problem with this chick because she wouldn't go away. And then you done bought one of them a necklace and you bought him the bracelet. And then you just got the bracelet. So now you mad about that. It was just a bunch of just jealousy over people you shouldn't have been jealous of because you agreed to have this type of a relationship. Then she did call this whole swinging or cucker, whatever it's called, which is not new apparently. Apparently this is something that has been going on for decades, and they have articles about it and experts about, because everybody was looking it up. You called it a lifestyle. And as we know, obviously, if another rapper was asking about it, this may be something where all them rappers is over there nervous right now. All the people involved that women are willing to, have these relations with other men and all of that stuff, all of them is over there nervous. Then, listen here. Miss Gigi said Miami also had an issue. Gina said we ain't going nowhere. She been around forever. Like, everybody got stories with Gina, apparently. Yeah, apparently they knew. Okay, I know nothing about it. All right. That is true. Technically, you are watching people. However, you're not watching your mates. I didn't know that people like to watch their mates have these relations with other people. Because just like when you look at stuff that Jane Doe was saying, she said things such as almost like one of them she almost fell in love with almost or something. Like you're with this person all the time. They treated you nice, they treated you romantic, and she didn't want to be with anybody she wasn't attracted to. So most people don't want to see their spouse with somebody else. So that is a fetish of some sort if that's something that you prefer. So, like you said, like watching somebody is not a new phenomenon. Obviously, that's what corn is. However, your mate, that's a whole different situation. All right. Then to make things even more weird, more weird. And you get me, said the seven other people was shocking. She gets off the stand after being torn up by the cross examination, in my opinion. I think they did very, very well. And I would have loved to see all of it because to see again, yes, the federal government has a high conviction rate, but y'all do know most people don't go to trial, right? Most people plea, and a plea is considered a conviction. So it's kind of over exaggerated to the extent that people just believe conviction means trial. No, they do not try a large number of cases. So there's that. So to watch attorneys that try cases all the time against prosecutors or AUSA who probably don't try as many as they do and probably won't as long as they stay AUSA is very, for me, it's very interesting to watch. But anyway, and then before this is all over, well, right after it's over, Jane Doe gets off the stand and she hugs the defense attorney. Like, what is happening? What is happening right now? You hug. Now, mind you, Diddy is still paying her rent. Now, I don't know if today he is, because he probably, in my opinion, I think he just basically did whatever he did to keep her just, we ain't trying to piss her off more than what she is. So we just gonna keep paying it. When she get off that stand, she probably already had the text message. We had his attorneys have a text to his accountant, whoever was paying that rent, with the big stop sign. That's it. One emoji, stop sign. Stop paying that rent. Stop paying them legal fees. Send me your last bill. It's a wrap. And we learned she makes money. So she's making at least $10,000 a month on OnlyFans, I think they said, and $50,000 has been the highest she's made. So she ain't broke. Why he's still paying it, I don't. But originally she met with the defense all the way up till April and then she stopped, which is her prerogative. I'm thinking at first she may have made it seem like she was going to help Diddy. And then at some point, for whatever reason, we could all speculate, she decided to go ahead on the government side and be a government witness. Now, Gina, I don't know where Gina's at. Okay. I don't know what happened to Gina, but she was victim number 3. And I think it was confirmed today. But Gina did do a post the other day. And I was like, oh, okay. She did wherever she at, she can still post. So she posted in her story. Did I screenshot it? She posted in her story about, let me just go to her thing. She had everything. It's like a shirt on the back of this guy that says everything I love is illegal, expensive, or Asian. That's what she had posted yesterday. So Gina's around. We just don't know where the heck Gina is. Yeah, she got immunity too. I don't know. She could have got immunity for a variety of reasons. She went and she it could have been she picked up, we heard testimony that she picked up illegal drugs. She had them in her suitcase and traveled across state lines with them. It could have been that they're saying, okay, if you're not a victim, you are a willing participant, and so you're a part of the trafficking. I don't know. But if I was her lawyer before she testified, I'd have told her to go. She has to have immunity, or she's just going to plead the fifth and she ain't going to say nothing. So, yeah. I don't know. You said sounds like she was talking about her boy. Is that her boyfriend? I don't know. I don't know if that's her man. So today, Call Me Dollar says she will be okay. OnlyFans pay real good after hearing all her nastiness in the case. I'm positive she got a whole new clientele. Thank you. Eve has many faces for the super chat. I appreciate the support. You know what? Gina is out at Kanye's ranch and why? Well, speaking of Kanye, Kanye West, yesterday it was rumored that Kanye was coming to, or actually came to the court. And so everybody was like, well, this can't be true because somebody would have got a picture. Now, what we did know, or what I had heard already, was that he was in New Jersey, like he had flown to New Jersey. So that it was all these different, I guess, allegations of he came, the marshals turned him away, or something happened, this long sidebar in the court. They thought it was alleged to be because of Kanye, because Jane Doe was still on the stand and they thought maybe it'd be like an intimidation thing or something. I don't know. It was all allegations. But then you had some people say, no, he never showed up. He never came. Well, today, Kanye West showed up. And from my understanding, he said he was going to come and support his homeboy, which is cool, But let me pull this up from the shade room for y'all that didn't see it. Here's Kanye.
Kanye, why are you here?
You hear that? Whoever talking about telling the truth, tell them she's a freak. The question of why are you here? Like, do we not have any real questions to ask people when they walk by you? Like, you don't have anything in your arsenal that makes sense that we're actually, what you think you here for? The same reason why you there. What do you mean? So anyway, from my understanding, Kanye, they would not allow Kanye in the main courtroom for obvious reasons. He would be a distraction. And they think he probably was swayed to jury. I don't know. So what they did allegedly, from what from a person in the court said, that I ain't in there. Y'all know I'm at home. So what they said was that they created a separate overflow room so Kanye can be in the overflow room and watch the case on the monitor. Then I was told that he left after about 10 minutes. And he probably left because his point was he wanted his homeboy to see him supporting him. So him being in the overflow room is not going to help the support. Diddy is not going to know unless somebody comes and say, Kanye came. And so there's that. So apparently he made his little 10-minute, was like, I ain't about to sit up here and watch this on video. I could just watch Pam Esquire and get all the information. and he left up out of there. So Kanye's allegedly has left the building. You get me? Says, since she's a Jane Doe, could this be used against her in a custody case? Well, I don't know nothing about that, Mo. I mean, I don't know. You get me? I don't know what you're talking about. How the hell we hear the infamous one over and over everyone else? So that's what I said. I don't understand. Like, if that's the case, you should have blocked out Young Miami name, because people on her neck now. Like, you don't care that people are gonna assume Young Miami was down with the get down. You're not gonna like assume, like, a lot of people are assuming there's videotapes out there. Like, you're leaving the imagination to just wonder. And I don't understand why you didn't mind the girl rattling off those names. But then when it came to this infamous rapper or celebrity or whatever, y'all want to keep it quiet. And I think it's because it's probably something bigger. That's just my speculation. Because why does it matter? Like, why does it matter? Ye showed up to check on Diddy's family. Queen V said Ye is a troll. You say he trolling the courtroom? Tia Lee said Young Miami put herself out there when she was talking big. I mean, a lot of these women with Diddy try to do little things and say little slick stuff, because wasn't Gina, a couple of them were arguing with each other. Some of them had tried to check Young Miami. I mean, it was a lot going on. We just didn't pay much attention to it because it was just like, oh, it's Diddy. And I know that based on the gifts, and see, what I didn't like too with Jane is she felt like because Young Miami got a Maybach and got gifts, and that meant, she's like, what do I do to get that type of stuff, or for you to care about me like that? Stuff does not equate to people caring about you. This was also a good look for Diddy. At that time, you had the city girls they were those girls. Like, that's just what it was. They were topping their game. They were the female rappers of that moment. The people switch seasons so much in these new generations, but that's what it was. And so the connection benefited her, but it also benefited him. Like with Diddy, people were following what she was doing. He promoted his brand of liquor, like, it also helped keep him out there, because Diddy is my generation. And to have the longevity where even Future, yes, we know Diddy had the money and all of that, but did he necessarily have the popularity with that generation? So it kept him relevant to an extent. Just like R. Kelly bringing out Mr. Big. That's not a new phenomenon. I'm not saying, say they like that, but it's not a new phenomenon for, like, you got your quote unquote old schools end up with the newer schools, and it brings you back into the public light. So that right there, I think it was mutually beneficial. And I think for Jane to be she was jealous, like, I'm a secret, and then what you doing in public, they're getting way more than what I'm getting. So who knew? Thank you so much. Glad to be back. Thank you so much. Young Miami also was trying to get business, started getting her own paper. She said that she was about that life. Then he said she was more like Carisha. He knew Carisha because she's a good friend. He said she's a very good friend. She gives great advice, all of that, but she's Young Miami. That's like a persona. Young Miami is the one that's gonna half dress, be twerking, do all of that. But she, as a mother, that's what she is as Carisha, being somebody's friend and all of that, almost like the differentiation between, your alter ego. And he said that he knew Carisha. This is what he was saying on the podcast. But I don't know. I think it was mutually beneficial, and I don't think Jane Doe had much to benefit. If you got, like, why would any rapper think that it was okay to come up to that woman and say, I always thought you were gorgeous. I always wanted to F you. Who just says that? Which and then your response is later you end up showing your chest? What is that giving? Like, who's gonna really want, like, that's who I'm gonna have on my arm? I'm a wife up. I don't know. You said we haven't seen Gina going after Miami since she called Gina a eater. I now understand why I never met any of these men. God knew I would still be inmate number 24618 till this day. If they try me like that, you are crazy, Injury. So in the beginning, y'all, because I ain't about to be here all day, and you know I can. In the beginning, these witnesses are not as explosive. And I heard now they saying the defense might start their case as soon as next week. I'm like, well, y'all really, huh? So we'll see. If they rest their case, I might just fall out. So when they first get, let me see if this is the one. So when they first, no, that's not what I want. There was conversation, of course, about Ray said throw the whole trial away. It's not giving what you guys thought it was giving, is it? I knew once I read that indictment, and then when they were superseding it, they wasn't really adding much. Like they added a victim to Jane Doe, who basically we knew they dated because Diddy's team was vocal. And people just kept thinking, oh, they about to bring this home. They've been saying this ever. So if they're done today, that's their case. So Diddy had put on his own case. But yeah, I heard Wednesday or Friday or next week, but I just on, I think it was this person's page, they said, let me see. So I don't know. I don't know if it changed. So these are the witnesses for today. Special Agent Andre Lemon, Jonathan Perez, Diddy's former assistant. He pled the fifth, I believe, and Anaya Sankar. Now, Anaya Sankar is a paralegal specialist with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and she's expected to be called as a summary witness by the prosecution during the Diddy trial. So basically, she's going to be called to try to condense, I think, the evidence and stuff that's in there. Like oftentimes they'll do charts and they'll do graphs and they'll do all of that. Summation is when the prosecution or the AUSA and the defense are going to obviously do, some people call it closing arguments or closing statements. That really is what wraps it up. But when I watched another trial down there, it was somebody who their job is they summarize all of the exhibits, especially when it's a lot, and they place a lot of stuff in charts. So I'm believing that's maybe what it is, but we'll see. So that's who that person is. Let me see. So there's your boy. I guess this is what he came to work in today. Mr. Agnifilo, who is the lead defense attorney for Diddy. Okay, so they put, for those to be reminded, Diddy is charged with 5 criminal counts, including 2 of trafficking. And of course, he's denied those allegations. Diddy's in court today wearing a light colored pants and brown long sleeve sweater. So he's not wearing that orange, I guess he's been wearing for a while. Judge Submaranian said he needs more time before deciding whether jurors can see a 2015 text Diddy security guard sent him. The message describes a violent incident between Diddy and Gina. One, the guard said, would have gotten Diddy arrested even if she begged the police not to. But yeah, would have got him arrested probably for domestic violence though. So of course, before trial starts, or before they let the jury in, any type of issues, evidentiary issues that they have, they try to resolve them so that once you start getting witnesses on, so the case will proceed in a timely fashion. And so the government keeps trying to put in certain things that it's interesting because they don't want an audio of Diddy basically saying, you came at me or whatever with this violent incident all after you read this lawsuit or whatnot. And they said it was self-serving. But when because he knew probably at that time he was under investigation, so he needed to start cleaning stuff up. But it seems like the prosecution is trying to do the same thing in a way, because they know Gina's not testifying, but you're trying to get in certain things that's related to Gina. So even though she's not there, it's like you're still trying to enter in things related to her. Because remember, there was an assistant who alleged Gina got thrown, he started throwing apples at her head like he was, until she left. But he don't know if Diddy's aim was off, but testified to that. So they're trying to get another text message in to just show, because obviously with Jane Doe, she's admitted there was no violence through the 3 years that she was with him until that incident where she decided that it was okay to take his head and smash it into the table. So, and that was again sometime after the lawsuit. So it was like 2024 after Cassie's lawsuit. So now they want to enter in stuff with Gene, like they're trying to get things in to try to show, I guess, his violence. Because let's be honest, the defense has poked holes in every witness that has been on there. The balcony with Brianna Bangolan showed it could have been potential perjury. Okay. The math wasn't mathing and matching up. I understand people was like, maybe the date was wrong. The problem is it was just a lot of wrong. When you look at Cassie's lawsuit, she said it was at a hotel. All the friends was there. She has a whole different setting. When it came to Brianna, she's saying it was at Cassie's home. And she thinks she may have heard, I guess, Cassie's voice, or she heard Cassie's voice after Diddy dangled her, and then threw her over on the furniture. And that's not Cassie's story. They have two different stories. Then she says she took the pictures of her injuries on the same day of the incident. Well, they were able to prove that within that week, pretty much, Diddy wasn't even there. And Cassie was actually with him. And Cassie, I believe, said it happened in August. She's saying it happened in September. Her bruises and stuff were from September. And so even if she did get the date wrong, I don't think 30 days later she would have the same bruise, I guess, that she's saying that she got. But anyway, there was a lot of with her testimony. With Cassie, she basically said she did it. She never told him that she didn't want it. She just didn't want to do it. And I guess she told her homegirls and homeboy that she didn't want to do it. So there's a lot of testimony that has had holes poked in it. And so I think they're trying to enter in information that would at least show that this is how he treated women and that he was violent. So anyway, so a judge, I guess, is hesitating, but I guess it's going to think about it. So the prosecution did say Gina's victim 3. So they got, who is Gina? She's a Vietnamese model and influencer who dated Combs from 2014 to 2019. Alleges he abused her, causing a miscarriage. So she's the one that did the interview on Tasha K. Named in trial as a possible victim, but won't testify. So somebody said truth or accuser scorned X. So they said, where is Gina? Everywhere but at the Southern District of New York. All right. That's where we know where she's not. We don't know where she is. So prosecutor Christy Slavic confirmed that Gina is the third victim listed in the indictment tied to alleged violent acts. She also said phone and travel records placed Diddy and Gina and the security guard in Atlanta at the time of the incident, backing up the content of the text. So she's basically, the prosecutor is showing the judge that there's a foundation to corroborate that this violent incident occurred because phone records show where they were all at, and this was a text with the security guard. So then defense attorney Jason Driscoll slammed the prosecution's move, accusing them of trying to get 2 bites at the apple by introducing a violent account from Gina, even though she isn't expected to testify. So they were like going back and forth this morning. So then I guess at this time the courtroom was still empty. The jury hadn't been seated yet. The courtroom remains mostly empty as both sides prepare for Friday's testimony from Homeland Security Special Agent Andre Lamont. Judge Submaranian is expected to weigh in on a juror dispute. So you guys also know there's a juror number 6 who they were alleging that lacked candor to the court during voir dire when they were being questioned. And people have speculated what it was. People were saying, oh, that might be the one the government is going too hard. That may be the one that seems like that person, she or he is pro Diddy and been shaking their head in agreement and all that. And so that's what people have been speculating what it's about, why they would be trying. However, Diddy's team said, so the prosecutors are alleging that the juror wasn't forthcoming during the selection, but Diddy's legal team fired back, calling it a thinly veiled effort to dismiss a Black juror. So the agent is testifying or has testified about the GUNs, the pow-pows at the LA home when there was a raid. Prosecutors and defense attorneys are clashing over the next witness, a special agent tied to the March 2025 search of Diddy's LA home. The agent is expected to testify about GUNs recovered from the property's security room. I mean, it was his security room. So, I mean, there were going to be GUNs. So I think their point is the government wants it in just so you just assume, perhaps, they would try to use that as circumstantial evidence that he was around GUNs, he carried them. Remember, there was a story with Cassie about him packing up and going after Suge Knight. And so I think they're trying to enter that in like, oh, that could be plausible what she testified to. So defense, this is Mark Agnifilo, argued that only the agent who physically recovered the guns should testify about their exact location, not someone who handled them later. He said jurors need to hear that the guns were responsibly maintained by a professional security service behind a locked door. So then the prosecutor, Maureen Comey, pushed back, saying agents who cleared the massive property don't catalog evidence and may not recall who did what. Judge Submaranian ruled that the current agent can testify about the GUNs found in the security room, and the defense can challenge him on cross. So the judge let it in. So then we're back to juror number 6. Judge Submaranian says he wants to resolve the government's objections to a juror, though there's not enough evidence yet to remove them. The concern may involve where the juror lives. So the allegation from the government, as I said, is lack of candor. The government previously said that the juror should be removed for a lack of candor, but Judge Submaranian said, quote, my preference would be to hear from the juror, adding that it's likely there's, quote, a perfectly innocent explanation. So allegedly, from what I was looking up and reading, it looks like perhaps she said something about living. Let me pull that up. Something about where she was living at. Thank you, Granny the Great, for the super chat. I appreciate that. Let's go over to Inner City Press. No, he was having problems. It sounds like on Inner City Press he was having problems again with. He was having problems as well. So the thread ended up broken again, like the last time we were on here. So he limited the comments. It has something to do with too many comments or something. Okay. So coupling off with what we just went over from the other X account, before the jury is in, Agnifilo says the government's proposed witness for today does not know how the guns were moved and piled in the security room. He has no personal knowledge. We can exclude him. And the judge said he is not an expert witness. He's a fact witness. So then the government said when he was at the premises, the GUNs were found in the security room. They can cross-examine. There is nothing prejudicial. The judge said it's not about prejudice. Mr. Agnifilo is going to object to every statement. That's the issue. So every time you say something about the GUNs, he's going to be objection, Your Honor, objection, Your Honor. And that does, it can look bad in front of a jury because they like what you're trying to hide, but this is just not information that the defense believes should be in because they don't believe this person is qualified for what they're saying. So then Agnifilo says, I don't want jurors to see me to objecting every time the GUNs. There is nothing illegal about these GUNs. Mr. Combs has professional security. GUNs were in the safe. The witness is prejudicial. I don't care. They don't know where Astroglide was. What? Agnifilo further says, but these are GUNs. Let them put on the agent who actually found the GUNs. This witness should not testify. The government said this is how every law enforcement search is done. The property is secure before the search begins. They can ask whatever the agent's name is, I assume is what they're saying. The judge asked Mr. Agnifilo, the defense would stipulate that the GUNs were there, right? Agnifilo said, you're asking for the first time. I know the property well. I've been there many times. The security room has been locked. The judge says, can we find the person who did this? The government said, may I step up? This is how HSI, Homeland Security Investigation, does searches. They have a team that goes in to make the area safe. They are not the experts in collecting evidence. Ms. Foster can ask about that. I expect he'll say it was made safe. And then Agnifilo says, I'm not seeing how the guns are relevant. If they were locked up, the pow-pows are a very divisive issue. The judge said the witness can be asked about all this. That's how we'll proceed. Sometimes it seems like the court is weighing and swaying towards the defense, and then suddenly they're just like, no, we're just let it in. I think the government explained it good enough. We'll just let it in. Agnifilo said, I had no idea. He had no idea where the GUNs were found. So then Agnifilo says, I want to know where they were found. I don't want to play Russian roulette with pow-pows. That is how Russian roulette is played, by the way. So then the judge said the agent can testify. Now, as to the juror, why can't we bring the juror out today and get to the bottom what the parties have raised? And then, of course, Inner City Press is on their neck about not submitting it to the docket, whatever they were talking about. So every time they talk about something that ain't to the docket, he put the judge's order on there. He's like, in submission, they have not put in the docket despite, and he'll put the judge's order. Agnifilo said, this juror is not a professional speaker. These were honest answers. I am hesitant to raise this issue again and lead the juror to think we think he said something wrong. The juror's answers are innocuous. We were concerned about the residency. Agnifilo further says residency was resolved. The jury is diligent. Let's treat them with respect. The judge said there is no issue with qualification to serve. This juror met the qualification at the time. It was vague enough that the answers can be reconciled. The government said the juror has said multiple things that cannot all be true. Additional steps should be taken to protect the record. Then the judge said, my preference would be to run it to ground and hear from the juror. I expect we will hear a perfectly reasonable explanation. Then the judge said, but let me say, the allegation in court that the government is engaging in bias, There is no basis for that statement, not in jury selection, nor what occurred in the robing room. It is understandable that they would raise this to the court. So they said, you trying to talk about the race card and them trying to be biased towards a black juror, y'all just made that up for your client, okay? Like, I understand you're supposed to zealously advocate, but you really don't have a basis for that. They had a legit concern, allegedly, I guess, about her residency or his residency. So then Alexandra Shapiro, on behalf of Combs, says, we are concerned if we bring the juror back in for questioning, it might impact behavior during deliberation. The judge said, we don't have to get into it right now. Mr. Combs, are you waiving the issue? And he said, yes. Then the judge said, the question was, where do you live? An answer saying Bronx was accurate. One might move, but it wouldn't raise to the level of removal of a juror. So they're actually questioning where she was living, I guess, at the time. Sure, some of the other cases are more extreme. Here, Rule 24C is operative. So then the government says, given where we are now, it is the government's position we should get to the bottom of this issue. We have at least one question. Does the juror's employer have a residency requirement? That might explain the answer. So then Shapiro says, this would be harassing to the juror to inquire about her employer. The government says, I don't understand why the defense is so adverse to asking this question. I wasn't present when the juror was questioned in the robing room. The judge says, if we or I question him, let's do it at the end of the day. Let's bring the jury in, then the witness. Ms. Foster is telling the witnesses about the new questions. Okay, let's take a break. So I guess they have to talk to the agent and let him know what he can and cannot talk about. So then they have, it started at 9:46 a.m. All rise, jurors, you can see we are only 50 minutes late today, so we're doing better. Comey said, we introduced the filing exhibits and they got them under seal, Your Honor, pseudonym, under the pseudonym order. So before the witness comes in, we introduce the text messages involving Christina Coram. Let me read. Puff Music Phone 2. Make sure Robin pays her rent. KK says, Robin, send her rent was paid. I probably said her rent was paid. The government said, in the vicinity of Newark Airport, cell phone from Damian Butler. The government and this message said, quote, 3 of my doors are broken. This is crazy. D-Rock said, he is coming to the house. He just texted me. I don't think it is a good idea to leave your place. That's not going to make it better. He has my key. I don't feel safe. Then the government reading said, the key as a blue fuzzy tail, just take it. D-Rock said, I'm at the house. Puff is here. We know I can't take your key from him. The government says, thank you. The government may now call its next witness. And the government says, the government calls Special Agent Andre Lemon. It's probably just Lemon, you know. So then they're getting into him. He's probably very, very, very boring. But make sure you guys hit the like button anyway. Anthony said, you have to think about, is Carisha really the only one woman Diddy publicly bowed out after Cassie? That's triggering. Well, Gina is too. Where is D-Rock? We all want to know. None of these security that are supposed to be a part of the enterprise doesn't look like they testified. Robert said the judge is biased toward. I thought he was really fair at first, but then some of these rulings have been kind of like. And see, the thing that you have to do too as a defense attorney when you're in these settings with prosecutions, you have to command that room. And I'm sure all of them are very professional and seasoned trial attorneys. And so they probably come in there and they have commanded the room, because you're going against AUSAs or prosecutors. And you always have to think about this, that they're in those courtrooms on a daily basis. You have some people that are assigned to courtrooms to do the government's, on behalf of the government side against the defense. So when you're a retained attorney, you travel to different courtrooms, but it might be like sporadically here and there. You have some that are assigned. And I believe, just listening to it, I think a lot of them, these defense attorneys, are commanding that courtroom. That's what I think that they are doing. And so even with the government, they probably met their match. Like, no better way to put it. I think that they met their match in that courtroom because they are used to having the dominance there. But when I did criminal law, the person I worked for was the one that put me up on that. It was like, when you go in there, by the time it's over, all the staff should know who you are. They should be inviting you for donuts like they do with the prosecutors and all of that. And when you go in there and you command, and that's how it was with a couple of my trials that I had. It was like, oh, here comes the dream team, but it was only like two of us. But they were like, here comes the dream team. The prosecutors got coffee in the back. I mean, you just do things where you got the court reporters speaking, the clerks speaking, because they know all of these people because they work with them every day. And I think that the defense is probably doing a good job with that, of which the judges, and it may not be on purpose, but I think after a while they start wanting to, I don't want to say help them out, but they just seem like they start letting some things, they're not going to be as hard, or they let a little bit things slide every now and then, because of that. Like, I've seen, even in more so state court, because federal, I mainly, do civil. I don't really do any criminal. I think I've only had about couple of criminal federal cases. But I know in state court, when you first come out and you come working for them, like straight off the bar, sometimes my friends that have worked for the prosecutor, the judges have like almost guided them through what they were doing, especially if you're assigned to their courtroom. So, saying, man, listen, if they'll find ways around it. Yeah, they're finding exceptions. There's exceptions to hearsay, and they're finding exceptions that work to them. Or like, they'll try to say the defense opened the door by challenging the sincerity of her testimony and say, oh, all of a sudden now you want to talk about, oh, I never wanted to do this. This is my story in this lawsuit with Cassie. I was coerced, using those type of words, all the words that's in the lawsuit. And you're doing this because you thought this was your come up, because you've always been jealous of all of the people that Diddy was messing with and what they got from him. So that's part of what they are saying about Jane Doe. So now they tried to show, I guess it was a voice text or something, of which Jane Doe said before the incident, I guess, that she really didn't want to be doing these hotel nights. So whenever those type of inferences come in, they try to enter stuff in as prior consistent statements, like to corroborate what somebody else said, but it really just kind of makes Diddy look worse. And that's called bad acts. And so when you have too much bad acts, you end up what happened to Weinstein, where they bring it back down and he was retried. And this time it was 3 counts, and he was found guilty on 1 count, not guilty on the 2nd count, and a hung jury on the 3rd count. So, but will her willingness supersede his action of directing, transporting, and paying commercial workers? But that's not, you have to show force, coercion. It has to be by force, coercion, or fraud. So yes, willingness is the opposite of coercion and fraud and force. So yes, that's why consent is important in this case to them, to the defense, because she's saying, and so what the government is saying, that there was a level of fraud and coercion. Why? Because they're saying, hey, he would say, I want to fly you here and we're not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden, here go Paul coming out the back, knocking on the door in his shorts that she brought. I guess that match, she got matching shorts for the escorts, and I guess Diddy like wanted them to match. So she's actually bought that for them. So she was saying it was so many times she said she didn't want to do it. She would fly out, and there's that. Then you also have that, I think they're trying to argue from the fraud standpoint of he really didn't want a real relationship with her. He never wanted he just wanted her for the purpose of these XX, which would equate to trafficking. So, of course, you heard a lot of the defense basically arguing and poking holes on every time we saw each other. This is what I told you guys. I was like, the defense is going to come back and basically show times, a lot of times of which they did not have these hotel nights. And that's what they did. And what was very interesting is she could remember every detail of what happened with Young Miami, the Maybach. She knew about the bag. She knew about the Chanel trip in the store. She can tell you every detail of what he did in public with Young Miami, how they were posting pictures on both of their platforms. She could remember that. But all of a sudden, she can't remember any time where they did not have a hotel night. So the defense was able to just keep pulling stuff down of, y'all didn't do nothing that time, did you know? He took you here, and y'all didn't do nothing that time, did you know? And then it was, well, first she would say, I don't remember. Then they would pull up, of course, some type of corroborating evidence to show that this happened and they didn't have any hotel nights. So it was very interesting to watch how she knew every move when it came to another person, but she can't recall any instance hardly of which they never did any, like where they didn't do it. So she was saying like 90% of the time, I guess she said it was always a freak off, or well, they called it hotel nights. So yeah, so to your original question, you have to, yes, if there is a willingness, then that means, so when you have these statutes, and I think this has been the issue with the RICO, you have elements, and this is a conspiracy. So you also have to show an agreement because there's a conspiracy. You have elements to the RICO where one of them is acts of racketeering, which is the criminal acts that they're alleging of arson and intimidating witnesses and violence and ex trafficking and all of that. Those are predicate acts. You have to, each element, you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So even though everyone could be on the internet and they can say, well, they done proved the crimes, they prove racketeering, but you have to prove all of the elements. So you have to, so with conspiracy, it's the conspiracy to do racketeering conspiracy under the statute, and I think it's sub C. So, but because it's considered a conspiracy, there has to be an agreement. So there are things that have to be proven aside from that alleged circumstantial evidence of criminal act. And when you look at racketeering, basically the criminal activities that are done is supposed to be like almost your whole business is based on that, like through the racketeering, through the criminal, like this is how you basically make your money and you build this empire through the arson, through the bribery, through all of these different allegations. And so when, just because you see proving of one element does not mean that they proved everything that they have to prove. So I think that's what gets people. Yes, with trafficking, they showed people going over state lines. They showed, and I don't know if, I wasn't paying attention to all of the states, so I'm not sure where these people lived, but I'm assuming because at least one of them, they said, went to Miami, LA. We know that Sly or Cabral, he went to different places where they were. But we also have where she contacted him with this unknown icon rapper to do the same thing. So she would have been the one that brought them over state lines as well, which is probably another reason why she got immunity. Because that was outside of Diddy when she did that. Diddy didn't even know what happened. So, yes, you may prove that. But if you don't prove that it was by fraud, coercion, or force, that's why you'll see the defense hammering in on disproving that it was fraud. Okay, no, you knew what it was. I told you it was an open relationship, but I still bought you stuff. I bought you purses, I bought you bracelets, I bought you necklaces. I spent time with you. I took you to different islands. I did whatever because you said you wanted to do it to please your partner. So he did have a level of romance to it, but she was just jealous of what other people got and that he was willing to go public with them, but not her. So that was part of the issue. So that's why the defense goes at them the way that they do, because they're trying to show there was no fraud, there was no force, there was no coercion. Cassandra said, where's the fraud? Diddy's still paying rent and attorney fees today for a 38-year-old woman that refuses to get it. Well, she does OnlyFans, you know. That's why I said I don't know why well, I think I know he's probably paying it just not to rock the boat. You already know she's in the indictment. She has to testify. She's going to get subpoenaed. She probably ain't risking going to prison for you for not showing up. And so I think that's why he's still paying. But she does have a job. They pulled out that she makes money to this day. And she gets like $5,000 in child support, which seems like, you know, interesting. And they also let the jury know that her baby daddy was rich too. See through, you said breaking promises is not a crime. If it was, then it'll be a whole lot of people in prison. I don't know. If that text said help me trick her into having an FO, then that's proof. But help me persuade her. It's literally just him asking to get help convincing her. Yeah, so there was one time, thank you for bringing that up. There was a time where there's a text of which she told Diddy she didn't feel like doing the hotel night. He said, okay, cool. And then apparently after that, he reached out to one of the workers and said, yo, can you persuade homegirl to want to go do this hotel night? Which I think is interesting, because then that means that you believe that she has enough relationship with these special people that she want to use over and over again. She has enough of a relationship where where he thinks that they can say they want to have one and she'll do it. So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, so you use the worker to try to see if she'll go ahead with it? Pear said, Pam, do you honestly think your opinion that Diddy has a good chance of getting off? I do. I just want to know your perspective. I've said, if you're talking about Diddy, I think that I stick to what I said before. I just hadn't seen the RICO at all. I'm not really the prostitution. I could see that more so than the other two, but that's the lesser charge. So I never really focused on that. But yeah, you pay somebody to have sex with you. I mean, I think that's kind of what it is. But the RICO, I'm just not really seeing the RICO conspiracy. And I'm not necessarily seeing the trafficking. And those are the ones that'll put you in prison for a long, long, long time. Like you probably die in there. So from those two, no. Prostitution, I mean, it is what it is. You said she loved her some Paula Anton. That's who she picked. She picked her own people. How can a worker persuade her over the person that's supposed to be? That's what I'm saying. Why would Diddy think that this man can persuade her? That's why I'm thinking, I want to say, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't been following as closely the last couple of days. I want to say, didn't she say she fell in love with Paul or something, or one of them? Cabral. I know Cabral allegedly tried to blackmail her, but I thought she said she fell in love with one of them, or she loved him. And I know Paul was also a trainer for Diddy. I'm like, Diddy, you can't keep losing your girls to trainers now. You said she loved Cabral. Yeah, I'm like another. Okay, yeah. Paul was the trainer too. So you said they don't. No, they threw that in there, Road Dog. They threw, and I ain't that one. He might get a year or two, and then get time served or something, being over there at the detention center. No, not for RICO. Not for RICO. It doesn't move the. I don't see how to move the needle because this stuff was so relationship oriented. It had nothing to do with any business or any way. I mean, unless they're somehow trying to make it like it's an ex trafficking ring. I don't know. Like I don't see. It's not. It doesn't connect to me. So that's why I said I want to see who else they got. Now again, they got an assistant on here that may got some things to talk about, and I think he played the fifth too. I'm sure he probably went and got some drugs every now and then, and what everybody else did. You said them trainers is racist. All right. So Agent Lamont gets on the stand. He said he works for HSI in Los Angeles. That's Homeland Security Investigation in Los Angeles in the Human Trafficking Unit. Do you execute search warrants? He said yes. 50 or 60 so far. Did you search on Mapleton Drive in LA? He said yes. The agent said HSI New York asked HSI LA to be involved. We executed the search warrant. The government said, here's an exhibit, please publish it. So then they showing the house, it looks like. What are these other buildings? Lamont said a sauna and a recording studio. He said he got money. The government said, what rooms were searched? All. It is a large property. I went through the objects that we seized, then entered them into our case management system. We moved to enter into evidence these exhibits. Ignifilo said, objection. And then they said, sidebar. See, I knew he was going to have this problem when I was complaining this morning. So they come back. The judge said, the exhibits are admitted. Okay. Duly noted. It's a no. I told you that earlier. What are these? The agent says the floor plans of South Mapleton. How do you know they are accurate? Because I was there. How many manila envelopes were there in the nightstand? 6. What was written on them? K. Published the stipulation. Testing determined in the K envelope with the shamrock on it was ketamine. So they found drugs all up on his little dresser. The government said, is there a safe in the closet? He said, yes, it's gray. There in the photo. What was in the safe? He says a passport for Sean Combs and a plastic bag with substance in it. The government said, stipulation at paragraph 15 and 16, testing found the brown pebbles were MDMA. Diddy was a drug addict, man. What is in the bag? The agent said, of course, baby oil, Astroglide, and some lingerie. Where else were Astroglide and baby oil found? In the bathroom, in the garage. So then they showed a picture with a bookcase full of baby oil and a drawer full of Astroglide. So he bought everything in bulk. They're saying he bought everything in bulk. Okay. So then the government shows, they showed the next photo was boxes marked Astroglide, 24 boxes. The government said, where were these boxes of Astroglide? In the garage. Overall, how many bottles of baby oil did you find? 200. How many bottles of Astroglide on Mapleton? 900. Not 900 bottles of Astroglide. You talking about can't stop, won't stop. So then let's turn to the firearms found in the residence. What are these? A Ruger, a Glock pistol, some AR-15 platform. Show the photos. What is this? The Smith & Wesson rifle on the chair, 330 round magazines. The agent said there is a 5.11 bag. What's that? Just a bag. And this? Rifles and a Mossberg shotgun. And this? A drum magazine, large capacity. This one was 60 rounds. It had 59 rounds of green tip ammunition in it. What does green tip ammunition do? The agent said it is designed to pierce body armor. So you can't even come with the bulletproof vest. Could you go look at the boxes of firearms in the cart next to you? So they actually have the cart in the courtroom. So they go over the serial numbers, where they existed, and matching them up. So the government says, do any of the firearms not have serial numbers? The agent says, one did not. This one holds up the big old rifle. How are serial numbers eliminated? It says, sanded off with a machine. It's smooth, not like it was done with a screwdriver. No further questions. So then the judge says, Mr. Agnifilo, I know you've been over there waiting. It's your time to shine. So then Agnifilo says, you are aware that Mr. Combs has security, right? He says, yes. And every gun and piece of ammo was recovered from the security office, right? Yes. There were no guns in kids' rooms. He said, none. Was the security door locked? He says, not when I got there. Agnifilo said, but before, isn't it important? Did it have a lock? He says, it had a knob. Lock? I don't know. The government said, no, I think that was supposed to be Combs. You have no reason to think the safe was open before you got there, no. And then apparently, look, they got this man up here dancing. I can't. So let me see, because I think that was the broken thread. So let me see what this other person has said before we move on. This is the Gingis law. Oh, they said Diddy's mommy was in the courtroom and he blew her a kiss. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like Agent Lamont also testified that several cell phones were recovered from inside the house during the March 2024 raid. Agent Andre Lamont testified that Homeland Security recovered around 900 bottles of personal lubricant and 200 bottles of baby oil from Diddy's home. Jurors were shown a photo of at least 16 boxes filled with lubricant bottles piled up in Diddy's garage. The jury also saw a photo of baby oil and lube next to a pack of lingerie recovered from a closet near the master bedroom. The prosecution methodically walked the jury through key items. envelope marked K with ketamine, 3 cell phones, a plastic bag of MDMA, a large cooler bag and closet full of baby oil, at least 18 retail boxes of Astroglide lubricant. Between Johnson and Johnson with this baby oil and Astroglide, they have gotten the most marketing they probably have ever gotten in their entire existence with this trial. So then the witnesses have testified, she says, the witnesses have testified that the lubricants recovered were often used during hotel nights and freak-offs when Diddy directed women to have sex with others. I guess this was just some commentary. And so this is the Homeland Security picture that they have over here for those of you that didn't see it, even though we all watched it when they were outside of Diddy's home. Okay, we did the firearms. Scratch serial numbers. So Agent Andre Lamont testified that Diddy kept an arsenal at that Mapleton Drive home, including AR-15 style weapons, Smith & Wesson rifles, a Ruger rifle, and Glock. So that's the picture of the home. That's a beautiful house. Y'all see that house right there? It's beautiful. So now let's do their cross-examination, because I think, again, it was some break in the thread. Diddy, Mark Agnifilo is now cross-examining Agent Lamont, who led the March 2024 HSI raid at Diddy's LA home. Lamont confirmed all firearms were found in the designated security room and no GUNs or ammo were recovered elsewhere in the house. Under cross, Lamont also acknowledged that a security team protects Diddy's residence and that the home includes a dedicated security room, the same room where all the weapons were recovered. So this is some of the stuff that was recovered. Y'all see all that baby oil? He might need to get some bigger bottles or something. What is that? These were those high heel shoes that Jane Doe said she had to wear, them 6 inches. Love cuffs. Y'all see that? The love cuffs. Some more Astroglide. All right, let's get back into it. Entry team cleared the house. Agent Andre Lamont testified that a special response team entered Diddy's home first during the March 2024 raid. The only job was to secure the scene, search for people, and make any weapons safe. They do not typically document or photograph items on sites. And then the agent said, I don't know if the safe was locked. Because he wasn't part of the entry team, Lamont said he doesn't know if the guns were inside the safe, if the safe was locked, or whether the security room door was locked when the agents first arrived. So then the cross was complete. The agent stepped down and they was on a 15-minute break. Then they talk about Kanye shows up. Kanye West just arrived at the courthouse dressed in all white with sunglasses. He had reportedly been in touch with Diddy's family about attending the trial. When asked by a reporter if he was here to support Diddy, West nodded and said yes, then kept walking. He was directed to the overflow room. Kanye West pulled up to the courthouse today solo, dressed head to toe in white, the same all-white denim look he wore Thursday night in NYC. Bianca Censori, who joined him at the event in a black trench coat and stilettos, did not appear with him in court. Oh, God. Here we go. Diddy back nodding again. Prosecutor says Combs was nodding emphatically. While the jury was on break, prosecutor Maureen Comey told the judge that Diddy has been, quote, nodding emphatically during cross, including both during Jane's testimony earlier this week and while Agent Lamont was on the stand. She said even if he wasn't looking at jurors, the behavior was inappropriate. So he wasn't looking at the jurors, what they saying. They trying to get him up out that courtroom. Because the judge said that if he didn't stop, he would actually remove Diddy and came with the case law allowing him to do it. You still listen? I don't know, Tia Lisa, about this case because they've been showing so much explicit stuff and messages, and the jury, I guess they've seen some videos. So this might be the case. You don't know? I don't know. Elite Leo said the prosecution is a whiny bunch. He can't even have a natural reaction to what's said in court. Apparently, he's supposed to be a robot. Andrew said, I wonder if they got him out with Gina show up. And I don't know, because if she was out, did she get subpoenaed? Did she get served? Is she running from the law? I don't know. She might stay where she at. Classy said, well, do his presence bother them? This is a hate case. You said, TD Will said, trench coat. It was 90 degrees yesterday. Well, if you ain't got no clothes under them, maybe it don't matter. I'm just saying. So defense said nothing inappropriate. Defense attorney Brian Steele defended Diddy, saying he's acted professionally. Mr. Combs did nothing inappropriate at all today or any day, actually. Judge Submarinian said both sides had already been reminded last week not to engage with the jury. He added it's impossible to police every courtroom reaction, but warned again that no communication with jurors will be tolerated. But she just said he wasn't looking at the jury. That's what she just said. She said that he was not even necessarily looking at jurors. Man, y'all sounding like some sore losers. Like you might think you ain't got this in the bag, because I've never heard this type of, like, get out of here. So Comey clarified she wasn't asking for a curative instruction or Diddy's removal, just raising concern over his conduct during yes or no questions. The judge didn't issue any sanction, but repeated that even subtle attempts to sway the jury are out of bounds. As Kanye West entered the courthouse, bystanders shouted, "Thanks for the support, Kanye." West didn't respond. He was escorted to the overflow room without making a statement. Kanye West arrived at the courthouse in all white. Okay, you already said all that. So now the former assistant takes the stand under immunity. So Jonathan Perez, Diddy's former personal assistant, is now on the stand testifying under an immunity order. Before the jury entered, Perez invoked the Fifth, and Judge Submarinian signed an order compelling him to testify. Perez is the fourth witness to take the stand under immunity in this trial. Kaplan, Brianna Bongolan, and Eddie Garcia. Well, Jane also testified about immunity, but Kanye West exits after 40 minutes. Kanye West has left the courthouse through the front entrance. He was seen getting into a car that quickly drove off. West had arrived about 40 minutes earlier and spent his time in the overflow room after nodding yes when asked if he came to support Diddy. Perez called him Diddy, P. Diddy, and Mr. C. Love. Jonathan Perez testified he worked for Diddy from December 2021 until September 2024. So basically until he went to jail. During that time, he referred to his boss by several names, including Diddy, P. Diddy, and Mr. C. Love. Jonathan Perez told the jury he worked as Diddy's assistant from December 21 to September 2024. He started at $85K and eventually made $100K. His boss had 3 to 4 assistants, and Perez typically worked 9 to 9. before handing off to a night shift assistant. So apparently he got his labor together around this time. And so people aren't working 24 hours and getting or what did they say, 20 hours and getting 4 hours of sleep every now and then, or having to be on call 9 o'clock around the clock. It looks like he actually had a regular 9 to 9. Perez said Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Courtroom, was his supervisor and the one who made him aware of King nights, which he described as Diddy, quote, going to hotels to have private time with the female. Staff would get between 2 hours and a full day's notice to prepare. Okay. Perez testified that Jane, who dated Diddy and testified under a pseudonym, would accompany him to hotels for King nights. Asked how he saw their relationship, Perez answered, female friend, companion. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know what she was. I just know that I got paid $100,000 a year. And part of my job was when he wanted to spend a long time with a lady, I set up the room and I kept it moving. That's it. I don't know what the lady was. What she was available a lot. That's what she was. Okay. Jonathan Perez continued testifying about King nights, describing them as private hotel stays Diddy had with a woman. While Perez usually worked daytime, he said he personally set up about 5 of them. Perez says setting up a King night meant packing food, liquor, red lights, music, condoms, lubricants, and sometimes honey, which Perez said was used to enhance the man's libido. Did y'all know that? Did y'all know that honey will help you out? And did you know you should hit the like button? That is not a RICO. Staff help with all of this. This is a RICO. Okay, I'm not going to repeat myself. FO, Hotel, Nice King. You know, he liked to name stuff. He liked to put labels on it. Man, listen, me and you both. I'm just asking. Yeah, put the honey in the chat. Put the honey emoji. You said honey does it for you. You said it sounds sticky. Ex trafficking is actually one of the counts, but it's also one of the predicate acts. But this is what they're trying to prove. You know what? Ray said a honey pack is honey mixed with Viagra. Okay. Honey bags. Okay. Gotcha. I guess. So this is what they're trying to say, because they help with, they're trying, but again, it's a conspiracy. So let me keep going. So Perez also testified that he would go to X stores to buy adult outfits and high heels. He paid for them using a company card with the cash from Diddy's security team. So that's what they're getting with this company card. That's what they're trying to say. The X trafficking is connected to an enterprise, which would be like they named all of Diddy's companies as being a part of it. So because he used the company card or cash, they're trying to connect it to the criminal enterprise. But again, we cannot negate the fact that Diddy Bad Boy is legit and he has ventures and partnerships in that. You have Sean John, that's legit. De Leon, we know he don't own that because he was sitting up there trying to sue people and then messed around and got indicted after that. But I ain't saying it's connected. I'm just saying it's just, interesting. So a lot of his businesses that he had, Revolt, all of those are legit businesses that make money. So I guess what they're trying to say is he used the company in order to wait till how they tie it up in close and how they're going to try to do it. So that's why they're asking how it was paid for. Assistants cleaned up King nights. Y'all know all the assistants will clean up the rooms because They would have all that doggone oil everywhere. You're slipping and sliding all up in the bathroom. You're slipping and sliding. All they said it was oil stains on the headboard, oil stains on the mattresses, just oil here, oil there, oil everywhere. They would go through 20 boxes in one night because he wanted everybody to be glistening. And so because of that, the assistants would come and try to clean up, partly because they were concerned about TMZ and other outlets that would be like, look at these rooms that Diddy had. That somebody, usually a lot of leaks come from inside the place. That somebody who obviously they're going to know, regardless of what name he's under, they know who he is because they put the real name under it. So they had like the Frank Black, Frank White, and they had Diddy on the account. So somebody, they know it's him. And he came there frequently too. Jonathan testified that after King nights, it was his job to clean up. The hotel's rooms was usually a bit of a mess and in disarray, he said, with lots of sheets and towels and oils. Perez said Diddy and his guests would usually look tired afterwards. Staff were expected to arrange a recovery setup, including meals, massages, or even an IV drip. Jonathan Perez testified that different people had different names for Diddy's Group X encounters. Cassie and Diddy called them freak-offs. Jane called them hotel nights. Staff like Perez called them king nights. Perez said staff packs, quote, everything he would need for 12 to 24 hours, including food, drinks, music, lubricant, and a pack of Vital Honey to boost libido. In 2022, the FDA warned that Vital Honey secretly contained, I'm sure this is probably the extra commentary they put on here, the active ingredient in prescriptions for ED medicines. See, I think Ray just told us that. Thank you, Ray. They had to Google it. Juror saw on August 2023 message from Perez to Diddy and Jane during a hotel setup. Just left 2 candles and room phone in front of room door. I'm only 9 minutes away if y'all need anything. The jury also saw messages between Christina Courtroom, Perez, and another assistant coordinating the hotel setup. Courtroom asked if the room was ready. Perez replied he was heading to the store to buy outfits for Jane. Oh, why is this car slipped and fell twice during cleanup? Didn't I just say that? In May 2023 chat shown to the jury, Courtroom asked another assistant how the hotel room cleanup was going. The reply, slipped and fell twice. He had them ice skating through those rooms, just sliding all over the place with all that oil. And G said Jane probably called them hotel nights because her crazy self probably thought it sounded more romantic. They do. That's what I'm saying. Assistants set up on the gospel side. Like when people, and I'm not saying they setting up freak offs, I'm just saying they will have how they want their room. Like some artists, period, like if they're performing and you book them, they'll say, I want a fresh fruit basket in here. I want 2 Glade candles. I need this and that for my vocals. I need da-da-da-da-da. I need this type of towels. I've seen some crazy stuff in the writers. I'm like, what? And a lot of times they'll say their assistant will do it because they don't want people in the room. So that's not really uncommon. Like when you become a personal assistant, those are the things you do personally. And to me, they were doing it for his personal life. But I think the government is trying to connect that he may have used business money in order to do it. So now they say it's a whole enterprise or a RICO because of that. Even though legit these businesses have been around for long before Cassie even existed, Bad Boys existed. So clearly the business was not predicated on crimes. Committing crimes, and that was really the purpose of it, because before Cassie existed, some of these businesses existed already. So Ray said we got Dorinda and she wanted her water specific temperature. Oh yeah. They don't play about it, or they want a certain type of water. You came with Fiji? I need Iceland. This is sounding shadier and shadier. Cassie and her husband got their money for whatever reason. Anyone who does all Diddy is accused of could not pay me off. I will call cops and go. All right. Staff iPad had X video of Jane. Oop. Jonathan Perez testified that Diddy's videographer once found a video of Jane having X with another man on an iPad used by staff. Diddy could be seen in the background. Perez said, oh, so he actually was on some of the videos. I was thinking he wasn't on them at all. So I guess if he was on them, then it would affect him if they got out. Because people be looking like, why you watching this? Why you watching your girl and having intercourse with a whole nother man? Like, what? So if he was on there, then I think that does change the game. I was thinking that he wasn't even on there. So when he was so any type of threats would be like it wasn't going to affect him because I don't even know he on there. But this, yeah, I don't think he wanted this out. This is like going into this man's love life like this is crazy. And now we know, well, we probably all already knew. I knew Diddy didn't invent this. So that means there are several people that do it. So I'm wondering if the government is just trying to eliminate that whole ring, alleged maybe a ring of it in the hip hop community or something. If there's a bigger picture overall, because they're not trying to get the people connected with Diddy that you're saying were a part of the enterprise. Because remember, they say the enterprise is the staff, personal assistants, security guards, CEOs. They're saying all these people are a part of it, of the alleged enterprise, according to the indictment. So they found the nasty video. Diddy could be seen in the background. Perez said he informed both Diddy and Christina Courtroom separately about it the same day. Perez told jurors that Courtroom seemed alarmed by the video and told him the next time he should bring any footage like that directly to her and let her handle Diddy. So, of course, remember, they're already saying that, alleging that Christina is the co-conspirator and she will cover up all the stuff that he did. About 6 months later, Courtroom questioned Perez about the video again, saying someone outside the company had brought it up. That conversation was secretly recorded and later recovered from Courtroom's phone seized in 2024. Perez testified he had no idea he was being recorded. The jury is now listening to the tape. So the jury broke for lunch at 1 o'clock. All right, let me see. Let me see something. So this is part of the thread from Inner City Press. The government said, Mr. Perez, is this your text message? He said, yes, it's me, KK, and Joey. The government asked, KK asked, how is the setup going? How much longer do y'all need? What did you write back? I wrote, I got fruits and shakes, and we'll ask Jane about outfits. Then KK asked, is room done yet? How did you respond? I wrote, room is done. Now going to the store. What store? Adult store. Afterwards, KK asked about cleanup of what? The room. How did you become aware of the video? Perez said, a videographer named Brandon showed it to me. Where did you go? I told an iPad and went to the office. The government said, what was on the video? Perez said, Jane having X with a black man and Mr. Combs watching. Government said, did you tell Mr. Combs? Perez said, I did. I told him I found it on the iPad and it probably shouldn't be there. He seemed surprised. What did KK say? That in the future, I should bring things like that to her. I described it to her. The government said, did you speak with her about it again? KK said she had gotten a call from someone outside the company talking about the video in some capacity. Did you record that conversation? No. Were you aware it was recorded? No. So the government, they stipulated on both sides, seizure of Christina Quorum's cell phone. We offered the audio and transcript. So then it was played and stopped. So the government said, whose voice did you hear? Mr. Perez, KK's. So the audio of KK, both times, the only person at the house who knew about it was you. And then audio of KK, where did you find it? Brandon said, Perez said, Brandon the shooter. Government said, was that you? Perez says, yes, and he's the videographer. Perez, Brandon was like, so this is him talking, I guess, on this audio. Perez says, Brandon was like, something is on the iPad. I shouldn't see. KK was like, was there anyone else in the theater? Perez said, maybe Gio. KK said, we have camera footage of who was in the house. Perez, I went to PD about it, said you can delete it. He said, okay, and deleted it. Then I told you. KK said, did you hear anyone else in the house talk about it? Did anyone else ever bring it up? Perez said, no. So then there's audio of Perez. Rob talked about it, but he said he didn't want to see it. The government said, why did you not want to delete it? Perez said, it wasn't my role. He said, that ain't my job description. He wanted to delete some video of him watching some people getting it in that may or may not be legal. Won't be me. The audio said, Perez says, there should be an investigation. Mr. Combs thought he might be compromised in some way. His phone data. The government said, let's pull up the next one for the jury. So it's audio of Perez again. I told Rob I found something private on the iPad. He said he didn't want to know. KK said, was anyone else in the theater except you all and Gio? Perez said, no. Was Chef K in the theater? Perez said, yes. Why didn't you say Chef K was there? Perez said, I just wanted to minimize things. The government said, did anyone ask you again? Perez says, yes, Fahim did. Asked me what happened when I found the video of Jane. The government said, are you aware of how Fahim knew? No. So Fahim is I think he's like the security. So yeah, so apparently homeboy done found on the iPad that was for the staff a free golf video of Jane. And I think they're just, again, KK is not being called. It doesn't look like, if they're trying to wrap this thing up, because she would need about a week and a half. She's been with him so long. But if they're trying to wrap this up, I assume she's not being called. And the defense would be crazy to call her. Like, don't even open up yourself to that. So if KK is not called, assuming that she's not, they're using this type of stuff. These people seem like they're getting used to bring KK in, because they're going to say the agreement was between Diddy for the conspiracy portion of the RICO. They're going to say the agreement was between Diddy, and we know they're saying she's a co-conspirator. So without having her come in, they're using people to enter in text that show what she already knew and what she did to cover things up. Now, I think KK, even when she did her statement, when she kept getting sued, and she got sued a few times in a couple of these lawsuits, is she didn't know, like, you're doing this all the time, or where these people came from. She doesn't know, like, if that person was cross line. She doesn't know exactly what he's doing. I'm sure every time he went to the hotel, he didn't have a person to watch or have those type of FOs every single time he went to the hotel. So I see what they're trying to do. The government is just trying to get the conspiracy part in by saying it was Coco, saying it was KK. And then people are talking about, like, through Jane Doe, there were texts that came in about Christina Coram. And now you got this assistant who was coming in about Christina Coram. So the IE Network says this has been one big look into Diddy's love life, which I did not need to know. I don't see no trafficker and racketeer. I see a woman beater and a druggie and a freak. This needs to be in state court. Well, I think the problem with that is, and I stand by what I said, I believe that once Cassie came out with this lawsuit and there were allegations that people went to the police and somehow it was covered up, like people were alleging, and everyone came out, me too, me too, me too. I think that the government felt like they had to do something. This is Damian Williams who brought this. Remember, he's no longer there after Trump got into office. So they have an active, I think, U.S. attorney over there in the Southern District right now. It may not have been a confirmed appointed person, because the person that was on there before, remember, she stepped down because they wanted her, the one that was actually appointed by Trump, because they wanted her to dismiss the case with Eric Adams. And she was like, no, we got proof that he didn't commit a crime. We don't have a reason to dismiss it. And I can't, in good conscience and under my oath that I took as an AUSA and as an attorney in general, I can pull up 50 rules that I'll be breaking. So no, I'm not going to do it. So either we could sit down and go through it, or you can tell me, you know, I'll resign. And basically Bondi was like, thank you so much for your resignation. I tell you what to do. I'm the Attorney General for this whole United States of America right now. And so her, along with other people at the AUSA, at the Southern District of New York, they stepped down because of the Eric Adams situation. So when Damian Williams brought this, he was saying things, they're still actively under investigation. They haven't been through all of the devices. I just honestly think that they were looking at all these lawsuits and thought that they would find way more than what they were able to find on these devices. I think they thought they would be able to find more credible witnesses when it came to this, and it just didn't work out. I think the rumors on the internet about laced, because of one of the lawsuits alleged laced baby oil and all of that, I think the government believed they were going to find proof of some of this stuff, that they were big old parties with all these celebrities. We're still waiting on the celebrities that were at the Diddy parties that was doing a lot of this stuff. That was never a part of the indictment. It was about his relationships with his girlfriends, and then what they were doing in their private lives, which is apparently what a lot of people do. However, they probably don't pay for it, I would assume. So the money aspect of it is what got them caught up in the game, paying it. You having whatever, but then I don't know, like when you have swinger clubs, they pay for you to go into the club. So I guess maybe he was looking at it from this way. I just think this is embarrassing. If nothing else, win, lose, or draw, he gonna be embarrassed. Nobody's gonna look at him the same. Every woman we see with him, we're gonna be like, okay, all right, she bought it. I think that how he's going to recover from this is going to be very interesting if he is found not guilty. Of course, if he is found guilty on any of the charges, I think that he's going to appeal. He's already, the forfeiture part of it, they can try to take every last dime this man has made through his businesses and try to equate it to the RICO and the trafficking and all of that. So that's why RICO is important. Like a lot of people were like, well, why even bring a RICO? Just come with this, just come with that. But RICO allows you to take those assets. Call me, darling, said, yep, the media ran so much misinformation. That's not even a part of the case. No, we still been waiting. The IE network said yes, but paying most of those lawsuits were all because people saw Cassie get money. I agree. People started out, almost every lawsuit talks about Cassie's lawsuit in it. They start out, they woke up with such courage and bravery because of what Cassie did. But then half of you guys want to be Jane Doe and John Doe. Is that really courage? And I think it's interesting that a lot of these people are alleging RAPE and all of that, but we don't really see these people testifying that this happened in these rooms or whatnot, even if that would be a predicate act for RICO, if it could be proven. But we don't even see, the only person that testified so far that has a pending lawsuit would be Brianna, who we know, wasn't honest on that stand about something. And then you have Don Richard. She has a lawsuit as well. She was the first one to get cross-examined, and we ain't heard from her since. But those were the ones that testified. Now, all of these egregious acts that you see in these lawsuits, it seems like that will end up being a part if the government thought they could prove it. Right. There was allegations about tapes, and you had the boy Courtney who said that he witnessed it for himself. Courtney Burgess. He went on his media campaign. They actually had Courtney went in front of the grand jury. So remember, some of these people went in front of the grand jury. So I'm assuming some of this stuff, the grand jury probably decided not to indict on whatever charge they were trying to do. Because there was a video of Courtney being with Ariel Mitchell, who decided to represent him. And again, she was the one that said she seen a screenshot or something that he sent her of big celebrities, and that people they should probably buy the tape so their names ain't out there and all of that. It was just a mess. After Cassie came out, it just was a domino effect, and it was a ish show in storm. Okay. Yeah, Justin. Yeah, no, I agree. Judon said Lil Rod got it kicked off by saying he had video evidence. I think Lil Rod did something. You're strange at Diddy's house, and then played the video. Oh, Lil Rod is the one that threw everybody's name out there. Lil Rod is the reason why 50 Cent decided to ask for full custody of his child, because the name of his baby mama that was in the lawsuit. He brought up Young Miami. He brought up Christina Coram. He brought up everybody. That mug was a book. Okay. Now, UMG, he brought in Lucian Grange and all of them. They immediately got taken off the case. It was proven not to be, I guess, accurate, where he dismissed it. He actually dismissed them because they were trying to get sanctions. And they still tried to get sanctions once he dismissed it. It was like, nah, not even threw our name in there and all of that. Hell, no, we want him to pay our fees. And then he was going back and forth with Tyrone Blackburn, who represents him. And wow, that's true. It wasn't that Cassie came out. It was that she got money. And a lot of these people, they blame Diddy for their lack of careers. Money makes some folks say and do anything moral or immoral. This is historically accurate. Grand juries back prosecutor. Both sides should go before the grand jury. Otherwise, it's unfair. I do think the grand jury process is not fair, because it is, you only hear one side, but that's all they have to show is probable cause. So it's easy. Probable cause is the crime was committed and you did it. So they can literally sit on the stand, say you did A, B, C, D, and E, say that that person is the one that did it, and that's enough for probable cause. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It goes from the lowest bar of our standards to the highest bar. So once you go through the process, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So I think even with a defendant there, because when you have preliminary examinations, which we have here a lot, more so than anything else from the state aspect, and you have the defense is allowed to be there and we're allowed to cross-examine, but I mean the bar is so low, the judge is probably gonna say, I see probable cause. I think I beat maybe 1 or 2 preliminary exams where they dismissed it and was like, it's no probable cause. Little baby said, I think that's why I didn't pay attention to Little Rod's case. You know, Tyrone is interesting. He's also he represented Brianna Bongolan at first. The whole balcony incident. He represented her and he sent out multiple demands trying to get millions of dollars. And she claims that she fired him because he asked for $10 million or something, or she alleges he fabricated in the demand letter. And part of that fabrication is that there was some type of sexual abuse that happened as well, which would have been needed in order to file. That's what I'm saying. Like with a lot of these cases, you have to realize these people are coming from years ago. Most of them, except Lil Rob, might have been the most recent because he was on the Love album. But like for the most of these people, it was back in the day. So when New York allowed the look back statute on gender motivated and violence and the abuse adult survivors act, they had time limits where you can look back on those type of claims that otherwise would have been prohibited by the statute of limitation. But you had to have some type of SA, like some type of assault, something like that. So that was put in the demand. And she alleges after that she fired him. So she got another lawyer. This is where the problem was, though. She got another lawyer, and the lawyer basically put the same allegation in there and asked for $10 million. So the government was like, the state was like, the state, Lord, I need to take a nap. The defense was like, they said, so why didn't your new lawyer take that out too? And the government tried to substantiate it by saying when she was describing what happened, he picked her up, which means he would have rubbed the side of her breast. And that was what they were referring to. And I guess they said some type of sexual molestation or whatever when it came to that. And then you had apparently Blackburn also represented one of the ex-workers that was trying to keep some type of documents private, saying it was attorney-client. So he came in trying to do a motion to quash. Blackburn lost. And then they had to turn over these documents to the defense. So, yeah. I knew his white parties weren't what people said they were. Yes, I think some things were happening because that's the party life, but not like the internet said you can go and not do anything wrong. Well, they were saying it was the after party. So they kept showing this same video of Diddy saying, because he would allow you to bring your kids over at a lot of these parties. So he would say, all right, y'all, in about an hour, we putting the kids to bed. Then we about to party like grown folks. You know, like they were using those type of clips to show that that's the time that all of these illegal activities were happening. Okay, let me see if we got anything new on here. Let me see. No, seems that these threads now back to working with full comment. Let's see. I need to get in this courtroom because this is too much. Relying on other people. All right. So then, according to Ginger's law, she says at one point during the morning session, Diddy grabbed tissues and forcefully blew his nose, possibly fighting congestion or allergies while court was in session. It is cold. Just in case y'all, wanted to know what Diddy was doing. So now trial is back in session. Judge Submarinian has returned to the bench following the lunch break. The jury is entering, and Jonathan Perez, Diddy's former assistant, is back on the stand to continue his testimony. So he comes back in a burgundy suit. I'm like, well, did he change or something? Jonathan Perez is back on the stand wearing a burgundy suit with a black shirt and tie. He's continued to swivel in the witness chair throughout his testimony. So he like this. His nerves is bad. He probably like. Before the break, Perez told juror staff were upset after discovering a freak-off video involving Diddy and an ex on a staff iPad. He's testifying under subpoena, so he don't really want to be there. Jonathan Perez testified that Diddy kept a Gucci pouch stocked with cash, so he didn't change from the Louis to the Gucci, with cash, cocaine, ketamine, Adderall, Xanax, and Molly. Good gosh, Diddy? Perez said the pouch was a must-have whenever Diddy traveled for King Nights. I figured it. I'm like, he bought some drugs for him or something. Jonathan Perez testified he obtained drugs for Diddy a handful of times, including Xanax, cocaine, and Molly from two people he identified as Guido and Baby Girl. The drug money came from the security pouch drawer. Perez said he paid for the drugs using cash he got from one of three places: Combs' security team, the Gucci pouch, or a top drawer in Combs' residence. Jonathan Perez testified he dropped off items at Jane's house on June 18, 2024 to set up for a night with Diddy, then returned later to drop off Diddy himself. Hours later, Perez got a FaceTime call from Diddy, who was angry and raising his voice. So this is that fight she was talking about. Perez said Diddy asked him to confirm whether another woman had been on a trip they took the week before. So he was the one that got FaceTimed about this trip that made her decide she want to bash his head on a marble table after seeing that video of what he did to Cassie in that hotel. Perez said no, and Diddy hung up after thanking him. Perez saw Jane on the call with her back to the camera. The call lasted about 20 seconds and she didn't speak. Juror saw June 18th messages from Perez to Combs' staff. One read, "Heads up, him and guest are fighting. I'm about to head back and pick him up." Another message to Fahim, "Need 3,500 ASAP for his guest. I'm going to take it to her." Perez confirmed guest meant Jane. So he's confirming what Jane Doe said about the fight. I don't even think Diddy and them really tried to defend the fight. I don't think they tried to make it seem like it didn't happen. Perez left to avoid a situation like this. Prosecutor Madison Smizer asked Jonathan Perez why he left working for Diddy in September 2024. How about he went to jail? He said there was a lot going on personally for Mr. Combs, and there wasn't a lot of communication about what was happening. So I thought it was a good time to leave to hopefully avoid a situation like this. Says, shoot, I don't know what's going on with Diddy, but I ain't trying to be a part of it. I'm out. And he still ended up having to testify. Perez testified the last time he spoke with Diddy was the day he was arrested. When asked how he feels about Diddy today, Perez answered, I feel great about him, the same way I felt when I was leaving my employment. So he said he ain't got no beefs with Diddy. Prosecutors have wrapped their direct examination of Jonathan Perez, Diddy's former assistant. His testimony touched on drug use, staff logistics, king nights, and sex video involving Jane. Okay, so on cross, defense attorney Brian Steele asked Perez if he still respects Diddy. Perez said yes. He also confirmed that he's seen Diddy sad and even cry on occasions while working for him. Wow. The defense focuses on October 26th. Steele asked Perez if he remembers seeing Diddy cry on October 26, 2023. After reviewing an exhibit, Perez said Diddy was upset that day, but he didn't recall seeing him cry. Why would he ask a question he don't know the answer to? Jane said, okay, earlier in the trial, Jane testified that on October 26, 2023, the same day the defense says Diddy was emotional, she visited his home after opening up about her feelings regarding hotel night. She said they broke up around that time, that Diddy told her to come over so they could be depressed together. So that's the context they put in here on why I guess they asked about whether he was sad or not. On cross, Brian Steele asked Jonathan Perez about the same day. Perez said he remembered Diddy being upset but not crying. He confirmed he's seen Diddy cry before and still respects him today. On cross, Brian Steele asked Jonathan Perez if some of what he did for Diddy was personal, not professional. Perez agreed. He confirmed that setting up king nights and buying drugs had nothing to do with his actual job and said he didn't believe he was being paid to do any of that. See, that's what I said. It's such a crossover with personal. It seems like a lot of the stuff they're trying to get him on was personal and they had nothing to do with his job at all. You said, why in the world would Diddy cry? Because he a human being, Shabby. You know, sometimes even a thug cries some tears every now and then, you know. You said, come over so we can be depressed together. It's crazy. You know? I know it got to be jacked up, though. That Diddy, like, at the end of the day, aside from your family, your only friend is Kanye West. I would just really be rethinking my whole life. Like, I must have really been a butthole in life. That the only person at the end of the day supporting me is Kanye West. That is something to think about. That's messed up. That alone is depressing. You've helped all of these people. Kanye out here swinging for his life and sanity all over the internet with a wife walking around with no clothes on, looking like she just need a dog collar or whatever she is. I don't know if they married or not. And that's the only person that at least said, you know, bro, I'm going to respect the loyalty, what you've done for me as a friend, and I'm there for you. And that is what happens when a lot of people go to jail. And when you're not beneficial to them anymore, they will drop you. And it's sad and it's jacked up. But for this man to have all these people, he has to sit there and realize nobody ever liked me. You know what? I really don't like me either. I wasn't a nice person. He's had nothing but time to think about his life without drugs for the last, 8-9 months? But that's jacked up. Nobody's talking about him. Nobody is sticking up for him. Nobody is doing any of that on that. The only person is Kanye West that checks on your children. That is deep. Said dance and praise music the morning after a freak off, just demon. Well, they listening to gospel. They listening to preaching and everything. What are you talking about? But he did say in one of his texts to Jane that he had a lot of lady friends because he doesn't have a lot of guy friends. I wonder why. He probably doesn't even know how to have real relationships with men. Love God, love others. That people don't realize most people are there to use you and benefit from you. When things hit the fan, people will disappear. It happens all the time. It does. I think they say when you go through these type of things is when you know the real intent of people and whether they are real friends. Call me darling, said Kanye and his wife need a bath. They both look like they smell bad. Okay, let's see what else they have to say. All right. On cross, Brian still questions Jonathan Perez about his relationship with Jane, one of Diddy's accusers. Perez said he helped her pick out lingerie, heels, and dresses, and that she trusted his opinion on what to buy. Okay, Jonathan. Perez testified that Jane never seemed hesitant to attend a King Nights and described her as a willing participant. When asked, he also said Jane never appeared upset or unhappy afterwards. Oh, they got some good testimony in there. So she seemed like a willing participant. Starfish and Coffee said they need to go to a deserted island somewhere and leave us alone. Leave us alone. We don't want anymore. Wrap this trial up. I need it to be wrapped up, y'all, for real. It's time to move on to something else. Now, you guys know how I am. Once I start something, I got to finish it. That's why the Ernest Williams thing is starting to aggravate me because I'm like, bro, we've been doing this for 2 years. I mean, it's consistently having some content, but I just want to move on to something else. Judon said, I see criminal activity by a businessman, but not a criminal enterprise. An enterprise makes money. None of the alleged criminal acts have directly generated revenue for Diddy. No, he pays the money. But with conspiracy, I don't even think you have to prove that it is money generated. It's not just proving RICO, which has to be you have to have a foundation before you get to the conspiracy part. And so that's why they're trying to set it up. That's why I want to see how they do these jury instructions. It's going to be interesting. Sharice said, do you think the video that came out of him beating is the reason why no one's saying anything? Maybe they are disappointed. Trust me, Sharice, you know that he ain't the first person that done beat up on their girl. All right. And we've heard a lot of celebrities being accused of it. They always come out, it wasn't what it was. It wasn't as bad as we've heard preachers get in trouble for that. So I don't think that they would stop for that purpose. I think some of them are trying to distance themselves because they know that the same things that he's alleged of, they probably are involved in. So you trying to make sure the limelight don't come on you. I think it's also people that want to distance themselves because they don't want to testify either. They know if Diddy calls their number, they're monitoring his phone calls. So that means you're going to end up being someone that's in connection. And a lot of times how wiretaps and stuff come across is they may have a wiretap for one person's phone, and then they end up calling somebody else in your conversation, even though it may be totally different from whatever you're investigating this person for. You end up being a part of the investigation and getting your phone tagged. Because now they think they got probable cause based on your conversation with them. Like, I didn't even know they were even involved. So I think it's just best from that standpoint to like not talk to him on the phone. But that don't have anything to do with his children. You could at least contact his children and be like, okay, I just want to make sure you're okay. The twins were graduating. I mean, you're going to send her some flowers, do something. That doesn't mean you're condoning what he's accused of or what he allegedly did or the beating on the video. But if you say they're your friend and then in their darkest hour, you ain't nowhere to be found, you were never a friend. Now, it's some things like we watched the Ernest Williams and he got his friend Dre. And with Dre, he checked them like, bro, you gonna have to sit down and explain this to me. They talking about you RAPE and people in this pictures and you gonna sit there. Now listen, you still gonna be my partner, you still my brother, but you gonna have to explain it to me. But he didn't automatically just turn his back on him and say, I believe everything they said about you. That's what I'm saying. At minimum, when you choose to sever the relationship with him, at least sit in trial or whatever and see what they're accusing you of. Because what happens if he gets off? You think he about to mess with any of y'all? He's not going to mess with you, but he's going to remember you. Just saying. Jay Lyra said, perhaps this is why I'm finding the case boring, because none of the rumor info is coming to play. Yeah, the rumors were more fascinating than what's happening in this. Like, you almost feel like you're going to a hotel or something and you got the cup up against the wall or something, or the walls are too thin, and so you're overhearing things that you not necessarily should be hearing. So to hear about what Jane Doe did and how she did it, and people with swords in their mouths, and you standing in position and you got on thought heels and you like going on for 48 hours, they just feel like information that's personal that I shouldn't know. And that's what it's sounding like, his personal life. Whether we agree with it or choose to have that type of lifestyle is a personal choice. Whether it's criminal, meaning RICO, is a whole different thing. But like everyone, even his attorney said, if he was charged with assault, we wouldn't be here because he'd just take the plea. But the problem is you can't just charge him with assault. Why? Because of statute of limitation. But I wonder if the jurors are going to ask, well, why didn't they ever charge him with assault? And G said, I feel for all the daughters, but my heart breaks for Quincy. I can't imagine what it's like to be him in this moment. Yes, the twins could potentially lose both parents, but he could lose 3. Wow. And then we also have the daddy, Al B. Shore, who is basically saying you're the person you like, that you love and care about. Why do you keep sending me the same text? The person you care about and who raised you, he's out here blasting them and saying he unalived your mother. I'm like, just out of whether you have a personal belief of that about that or not, nobody's telling you what you shouldn't, what you can and cannot believe. That's up to you. But to know that this is your child's mother is just crazy to me. You have no respect. You're not thinking about him and his feelings. None of that. Like, I just can't subscribe to that. That's why I think he's a clown. A whole entire clown. All right. So she's a willing participant, according to Jonathan. And then on cross, Brian still revisited the X video involving Jane that was found on the iPad. Jonathan Perez confirmed the concern at the time was that a private, personal X tape had ended up on a business device used by staff. So it was basically something that was private and somehow ended up on the device. So that's supposed to be why he came to him. He came to Christina Coram about that. Let's see. So Perez told the jury that personal errands like obtaining drugs or setting up king nights made up about 1% of his total work while employed by Diddy. Jonathan Perez confirmed that neither Diddy nor anyone close to him ever told him to stay quiet about king nights or drugs. He testified they only told him one thing: tell the truth. Perez also confirmed when asked on cross that he never saw Diddy strike a woman or anyone else at any point during his employment. Well, he seemed like he helping them out. Was that it? I don't know. Jonathan looked like he might be helping Diddy out a little bit. Well, listen, when you get in that position, starfish and coffee, you beg who you gotta beg. So I ain't even mad at him. B.N. Nicole said Kanye wants attention. Oh, that's new. That's new. I think Kanye wanted to be seen, though. That was the reason for coming. So if I can't be seen, what am I here for? What are we doing? If I can't be seen, what are we doing here? Let me see what Inner City Press has to say. What are we doing? If you guys can't say, look at Kanye. So part 2 has been comment. I think, is he doing a part 3 or something? Where is it at? I don't know. Let's see. So I'm going to pull up what Inner City Press has said about this examination. So this is Miss Miser. Mr. Perez, were you subpoenaed and do you have an immunity agreement? So this is Jonathan Perez, the assistant we were just reading about. Yes. Let me show you this. What is it? Mr. Combs' Gucci pouch. What was in the Gucci pouch? Drugs and money. Now, some text between whom? Me and Rob. Rob says, will you locate his Gucci pouch in his bathroom? What did you say? I texted, there was no residue and I didn't steal any Addy. LOL. Meanwhile, what? Adderall. As part of your employment, did you have any role in obtaining drugs? A handful of times. I'd purchase or grab them from someone outside. Who were you getting the drugs for? Mr. Combs. Which drugs? Cocaine, Xanax, Molly. How did you pay for the drugs? Cash. Where did you get the cash? Security or the Gucci pouch? Who is security? Fahim. What did you text here? What did your text here say? I texted I need $700 for Guido for drugs. So, of course, that's why he got immunity, because he was up there getting drugs too. And this text, I texted, I'm still waiting for funds from TriStar, Mr. Combs' business manager. Who'd you interact with at TriStar? Robin Greenhill. Did you get a FaceTime from Mr. Combs from Jane's house? Yes. So this is the government. So we're going back over this. So then Jonathan says, I dropped him at Jane's house with his supplies. Then he called me a couple hours later. How did Mr. Combs appear in the FaceTime? Angry and annoyed? Could you see Jane's face? No, she was turned away. What did Mr. Combs ask? For me to say if there had been another female on a trip we had been on? I said no. Had there been? No. How did you react during this FaceTime? Pretty normal, I thought. So she smashed his head into the marble table for no reason. And what did you do? I told him, Fahim and KK, that Mr. Combs was arguing with his guest and that I was going to pick him up. What is this? Message between me, Fahim, and Mr. Combs. June 20th, 2024. I wrote, need cash for his guest ASAP. Do you know what the money was for? No. Why did you leave working for Mr. Combs? To avoid a situation like this. How do you feel about Mr. Combs? Great. The same way as when I worked here. No further. The government like, let me get off of here. He ain't helping us. Mr. Steele says, Mr. Combs is a motivator. Yes, he is. Have you seen Mr. Combs cry? Let me show you something. Give me 1 second, Your Honor. May I hand him a book? You may. So it's in the 3600 material. I can't remember if he was crying, but this does remind me that he was upset. Combs still says, look again. And he said, oh, it does refresh it does not refresh. Okay, you said there was a lot going on. Do you remember the March searches? So apparently he must have told him he was crying when he talked to him as well. But he just doesn't remember. Even looking at what he told the government, it didn't refresh his recollection of telling them that. So you said there was a lot going on. Do you remember the March searches? Yes. You saw the news? Yes. Have you been in the bedroom at 2-Star? Yes. Did you ever see any GUNs there? No. Did you ever see him with firearms? Never. I only saw security with them. Steele said, because he's a man of note, right? Yes. He is a man respected in many fields. Objection. I'll ask this. You have worked with other celebrities, yes, and many of them have security, right? They do. You mentioned Jane. She was nice to you? Yes. You called King Knight's personal time, right? Yes. Mr. Combs works long hours, right? Yes. Because you worked out of his home. Sometimes business and personal got mixed, right? Correct. Setting up a King's Night, was that business or personal? He said personal. And buying drugs, I'm not saying you did it often. That was personal too, right? Right. And buying lingerie for Jane, personal. Personal. Did Jane always appear to you to be a willing participant in the King's Night? Objection. Overruled. Yes, always. A small amount of drugs, personal use. Objection. That's sustained. Can you estimate percentage of your work, business, and personal? He said, I'd say personal was 1%. Mr. Combs needed help connection to Bluetooth. Yes. He was not very high tech. He was not. Mr. Combs was working on an album very hard, right? Yes. You said KK and Mr. Combs were close, right? Yes. But you are not saying it was sexual. He said, I'm not. The argument you saw on FaceTime, it was verbal argument, not physical as you saw it, right? Right. You learned it was about jealousy. Yes. Jane was very jealous. Objection, sustained. You are about the same age as Jane. Yes. Was Jane a strong and independent woman? Yes. You made purchases in X stores with a company credit card? I did. But you don't know if Combs paid? I don't. The hotel was put in your name. You had to go in to set up the room, right? Yes. And if the room was registered as Sean Combs, there might be cameras outside, right? Yes. Right. Okay. So then we proposed this exhibit. It was an objection. Do you need a sidebar? There are a number of objections. We probably do need a sidebar, Your Honor. Judge said, okay. So then they're back. The judge said you may proceed, but without showing this exhibit to the public in the gallery. Still says, so Mr. Perez, he made sure all the screens were off. These are between you and Jane. What did you say to her? He said, I was setting up a King's Night. She was telling me what to get. Still says she is cooperating in setting up. Here, the chef says he's making her avocado toast. She asked for hot tea and honey to go with heart emojis, and you replied, I loved it. So basically, she's talking to these people allegedly. And what is this? Oh, this is Jane. She's talking, so basically she's talking to him, telling him what she wants for these nights. She want hot tea. She want avocado on her toast. She's like, make sure this, like she's enjoying his assistant and telling his assistant what to do. Now, isn't that similar to Cassie when part of Capricorn's problem was she said she started thinking she, being Cassie, started thinking that because she was Diddy's assistant, she was her assistant. So now you calling telling them what you want for the hotel nights. I ain't seeing how this helped the government. What am I missing? Man, listen, the way she was on that stand, like, they work for her. He's telling her, could you please get the avocado? I don't like that brand, but if you can get the one over there at Whole Foods, it's in the second aisle. I like the big and bread. Oh no, I have to have wheat and it has to be slightly toasted. Like what? But you saying, and you went to the store to pick out heels, to pick out lingerie, to say what you think about this, Jonathan. You think Diddy like this? Does this look good on? Does this accentuate my body? Like, do you see? Like, do you like that? Yeah, I think Diddy would love it, child. I think he would love it. And then you get, and then you come back. He coerced me. I never wanted to do not a nan like night, not at all. To me, this just makes it look like it undermines her credibility. 12 grain, right. I want my water to be room temperature. I can't. See, you see why I'm sick of this trial at this point. I'm like, are y'all serious? Y'all can't be serious. Okay. I can't right now. Let's see if they have anything. Okay, so then they got something else she wrote. Let me make sure I ain't missed nothing. She wrote to you, he's looking for smoke, and you wrote, coming. Yes. Your Honor, I don't have any further questions. I didn't know why they called her. I could have got my associate to cross this person. Miss Miser, she's like, yes. Was getting those things for Jane part of your job? Yes. Your Honor, I don't have any further questions. So they're trying to just say this was still a part of his job and the company was paying him, even though 1% was personal. But that's what a personal assistant does. Like they buy flowers for your wife, they remember the anniversary. Like that's part of what they do. So then that was that. Okay, let's see. Did you ever set up King Nights on vacation? No. We can turn the public ring back on. Thank you. This item, new hookah, is that personal? Not necessarily. And the baby oil, personal? Part of your job. Part of your job? Yes. So then still comes back up. It was TriStar which designated the payments, not you, right? Right. Nothing further. The judge said, let me see the attorneys at sidebar. So he probably trying to see how much longer y'all got. Because what y'all think? How long it's gonna take? All right, let me see. They don't got anything different. So right now, guys, they are at sidebar. Make sure you hit the like button, please. And thank you. I'm very bougie. You allegedly starfish and coffee. I don't know nothing about that man. Let me see if we got any questions. I'm not talking about her death, but their relationship. Have a good day. Patience keeping those. I don't know what that's about, Abby. So you saying if I was Quincy, so the sister came out and she basically said Kim had actually been battling a sickness for a minute. We just didn't know. So she was pissed off at Albie Shore for that purpose. She said Albie Shore, 2 months prior to, had actually talked to Kim one time for about 10 minutes. And that was pretty much that. And so because of that, she was pissed off. Like, you're putting this out here. Their dad is basically trying to save his life, and you're putting this stuff out here to promote a book. Now you wait till Diddy goes to prison to do all of this, which shows the punk that you are, or goes to jail. You should have been did this. Then you want to blame him for you being sick when you have a history of, I think it's diabetes and all of these other issues that he allegedly have. And you want to blame organ failure and everything else on him. Some of the stuff is like, who y'all think Diddy is for real? Do I put anything past anybody? No. But what happens is, because he's accused of one thing, he gets accused of everything. And that's not fair for anybody. That is one of the reasons why, and I'm always get back to my wrongful convictions because that's where my heart is. That is one of the reasons why a lot of people are wrongfully convicted, because they were drug dealers or something. Like most of the ones that I've dealt with, they sold little drugs in the neighborhood. Because they sold weed in the neighborhood, somebody ends up unalived, your name come up, and they just think that you did it, and they give the benefit towards that you did it because, hey, you're a drug dealer, you're a criminal, so you probably did everything else, which is not fair, because just because you're gonna sell a nickel and dime bag don't mean you're gonna off somebody. So that's what I'm saying. Diddy could do everything, do all the drugs. He can do all the things. He can have his beefs with Suge Knight and them fighting over artists and all of that stuff. But to just automatically assume, well, ooh, his baby mama, who he say is his soulmate, who he got kids by. Like, you got to be diabolical to even have anything to do with that, knowing at minimum you could hate her guts. But to take him away from his kids, I mean, take her away from her kids is just crazy. And we seen with Jonathan Odie, because people were saying, well, she had things on him, and that's why they're alleging that he may have been a part of Kim's demise. But Jonathan Odie had a tape. Cabral had a tape. You know what they did with John? And Cabral sold the tape and got money, according to the testimony. Jonathan Odie had a tape and got $5 million from it. So what I'm saying is, historically, he's paid people off, is what it looks like. Not took them up out of here. So just like with Cassie, knowing she had all this dirt and she was coming out with a book, it wasn't like he came after Cassie. They went back and forth. He said, I ain't giving you that 30 million. She said, bam, I'm about to sue you. So I think they knew how far Diddy probably would go, is what I'm saying. Again, anything's possible. But that conclusion is just a little leapy for me. Man, he's like the whole mafia by himself, the way people be talking. An interview. This is from Mimi, a forensic medical person who broke down the autopsy and her condition at the time. Very interesting and made sense. I didn't see that. Mo Better said, yeah, Diddy didn't off that lady. That's just the internet. But just like all of this stuff, while we're glued to this, a lot of people are glued to this Diddy trial because of what the internet said was going to happen, what we were going to see. We going to see names. We about to see some things that didn't happen at them white parties and after the white parties. We're about to see that what they say, lace champagne. You had the lace champagne. They accused Christina Coram of that. You had drugging people and then taking advantage of them. That's what most of the lawsuits are. So a lot of stuff we got were speculations and allegations in the public And it ain't got nothing to do with this darn trial. It's ex trafficking with his girlfriends. Do y'all realize the big contrast between what was out in the media and what is happening right now in this courtroom? Mimi said, he said there were some underlying conditions and concerns that would have been present for a while, and she should have been in the hospital, not getting care at home. If I could find it, I'll send it. Thank you, Mimi. But that sounds about right, because I'm going off of what her best friend says. She says she has some issues that nobody knew about, apparently. And so it's irresponsible for somebody that don't know nothing about it, because you're not as close or cool with Kim as you're alleging, to say, well, we believe Diddy did it. Diddy should come out suing everybody, but I know he just tired of court at this point. But Al B. Shore, like, nah. That was just reckless to say that, and he got children that's out here, and that's the mother of his children. That's so. Queen V said, folks just roll with narratives. I have to admit, I fell for it in the beginning. I think we are a lot of us have. We said, oh, what? And then I think after I read maybe my third or fourth lawsuit, where I just was like, I'm not reading no more of these lawsuits, because they started sounding the same. They started out with Cassie and what he done to Cassie, and then just, I guess, trying to show the court that he's this type of a monster. And then they throw in their alleged incident towards the end. That's like six little lines in a paragraph. And then you moving for millions. But a lot of them were the same way. I don't know. We'll see if anything else is on there. All right. Let's see what we have here. So the government asked to move and introduce exhibits under seal. Judge granted it. Juror, you may leave for the weekend. Don't talk or read about the case. On juror number 6, under the Fazio case, Second Circuit, district courts have broad discretion. So they're going to allow the juror on there probably. Judge said, in the morning when we addressed this, I said, based on the record, I was not sure an inquiry was needed. During the break, I looked at the transcript from the robing room and from voir dire. There is no evidence of bias. So they done finished with the court already, y'all. These people are out here, are being paid for these interviews. So they have never-ending stories, although most of them haven't been around him since the 90s. And I wonder if some of these people, that's why when people were asking me, like, why isn't Gene Deal testifying? I'm like, did y'all not hear that he was part-time and it was like in the late 90s or something with Biggie? I don't even think he even knew Cassie. But he got a lot of stories, though, for that amount of time that he was there. This is interesting. Michael said, I firmly believe the feds would not have arrested him if they did sit back and watch his own people disparage him for a year. They figured they don't care about him. Go get him. I honestly said I don't think they felt like they had a choice, because what happened? There's rumors that nobody's done anything because Diddy's above the law. So now we're going to bring these charges against him to let him know we don't care who you are, and we the feds, and we ain't worried about you. If we feel like you've done anything, we're going to get you on it. So they went through everything, and basically what they found was he had these consensual incidents. However, if you get them to say they really didn't consent like that, they did it because they wanted to please him and felt like they had to do it. Like Jane was like, it was so many times she didn't want to do it. You had Cassie say her mouth was sore. She didn't specifically tell him she didn't want to do it, but she really didn't want to do it. Jane said she told him several times she didn't want to do it, but then she'll turn around and set up her own. She was giving mixed vibes because you would say you didn't want to do it, but then turn around and set it up yourself. For Valentine's Day, you set it up yourself. So how do you tell him in one way, I don't really want to do it, unless she just wanted to control it? Then she wanted control of it. And I said that in the beginning. I was like, I think she uses this as, in her mind, she feels like nobody is doing this but her. So I see you with all of these women, and you're over in Turks and Caicos with Young Miami or whoever it was. And if you don't get your behind back here, you won't see another hotel night. So she thought that was her leverage. And then I think once Cassie's lawsuit came out, she realized that he does this, and she wasn't the first one. So now you're starting to think back like, did I get bamboozled? Now you feeling like the victim when you really were trying to use this as a way to keep him around, because he tried to break up with you every 6 months, it looks like. And you would get upset because really you just wanted more time with your partner, and you wanted more time in the Chanel store, and you wanted more time on a yacht, and you wanted to be able to post that you was with this billionaire. But he wasn't going to post you, especially when you have like a rapper that comes up to you and say, I've always liked you, baby girl. I've always wanted to F you. Who says that to somebody? Like, who talks to anybody? Like, I don't know you from a can of paint. I just admire you on Instagram, but I always wanted to hit that. Like, you're not a person that somebody would want to wife because of the way you move a little different. Like a lot of people say Corinne Stephan was a great person, but you ain't see nobody running to try to wife her up. They used her for what they say she was good at, and they moved on. But anyway, call me daughter. Said I'm not convinced this is her first time. Listen, if it ain't, Diddy's team probably got the person, because they talking about they're about to do their put on their case for at least a week, and it may be longer. So yeah, he is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Low key, I think Cassie still loves him. The Love album has songs about Cassie. They both tuned in to serious. Yeah, they definitely turned into drug addicts. And I think when you look at the timeline of her getting with her husband, he did not have money. That's a whole different. I don't want to say he didn't have money. I'm going to say he was a trainer. He didn't have nowhere near Diddy money. She was used to, at that point, big allowances, makeup artists, assistants, jets, all of that, to the point where when you're transitioning, you move in with your mama, with your man. You think if Diddy needed to transition like this, he was trying to find a house in New York. He ended up getting a room with, at a nice hotel until he got arrested. Diddy ain't gonna transition with his mama because he got money. She said, oh, we were just transitioning between states. So me and my kids and him, we moved into their house. No, you were trying to find a way to make some money, and you were able to get the money. And now you got all these people trying to get the money too. At first, when he said it's just a money grab, it's such a common defense. I was like, okay, let's see, Diddy. Like, they saying you out here wilding, and you talking about it's a money grab? Oh, okay, Diddy. I was rolling my eyes. Then as all these cases came forward, I was like, I don't know, Diddy. Might be some truth to what you saying. Nick said, I'm not going to lie. I changed my mind early on in this trial, and I look at Puff differently because of this trial. Don't believe everything you hear and see floating around. Yeah, but that's the power of social media. I tell you, it's organized ignorance. It keeps you ignorant. You read. You got some people out here in the same trial that we're all discussing, and they have a totally different take. They have a totally different commentary. Where you like, girl, were you looking at the same transcript? Were you at the trial transcript I just read? And they look at it. They're looking at it totally different. So if you just watch that person, you probably thinking Diddy getting his behind kicked in court. If that's the only person that you're relying on for your information, they said mainstream media is coming in, but they're kind of coming in and out. They're not really trying to report the fullness of the trial. So that is the good part about YouTube as well, because you get some people that just report what's in there and keeping it moving. They're giving their opinion on what they think about the testimony, but you got to hope those people come into your algorithm so that you can see it, or you're going to get the biased commentary. That's why I say it's organized ignorance. They keep you dumb of a whole lot of facts because you're relying on them to report and tell the truth. Same thing with a lot of our educational systems. It's the same way. Let's pull some Black African American books out. Let's not celebrate Black History Month. Let's not, like, it's organized because you actually have entities of which promote this. So, yeah. And we're seeing a lot of it. And I'm glad that it's opening eyes. I think YSL opened a lot of eyes on how things go. And as you notice, it has to be people with a couple of dollars that could take on a system like this. So you get so many people, they'll see RICO and they're like, what are they offering me? I don't even want to go through this. I'm not playing Russian roulette. I ain't got no money like that to have three agents on my behalf, 3 expert witnesses I got to pay $50,000 a piece to, $600 an hour, $7,000 a day just to testify. Like, I don't got all that. And so you end up throwing in the towel because you don't have the resources. Generally, a lot of people don't have the resources of what the government has. And so they're just trying to get the best outcome that they can control. The only thing you really can control is if they offer you a deal and you know what recommendation of the years are. And then you're allowed, if the court says, I'm not going to take that recommendation, you can pull your whole deal out. But that gives you certainty for your future. That's why you get a lot of people that plea and they didn't do it because they just want the certainty of it. Nancy's using one for ratings now, sensationalism and slander. Yeah, Nancy Grace been out here a while. But you know she was a prosecutor over in Fulton County. I'm just saying. Diddy had a warrant extradition and the money to create live. Yes, he did. I agree with that. And drugs were crazy. And it goes to show you there are so many people that idolize and they get so jealous of people because they have money and resources. But it's a lot of multimillionaires that are unhappy. For you to, for years, do your body like the way you've done it, it's by the grace of God, he is still alive. And honestly, but for this type of exposure, he may have still done it until he had the same demise as a lot of celebrities. You have Whitney Houston, but you still want to take crack, and you see what happened with Whitney Houston. You still want to smoke, or you still want to do cocaine, you still want to pop mollies, you still want to do all that, and you seen what happened. You have so many people that have OD'd that people were jealous of and wanted to be like. But look at, despite the money, they're all still tormented to the point where they want to be in an alternate universe half the time. So, I don't know. All right, y'all. I'm about to get on off of here. Right. And Michael Jackson was the king of pop. And he still was like, to go to sleep, he had to have somebody there with IV. And I know that doctor that went to jail for those few years for him for giving them the propofol, apparently there were doctors who were prescribing whatever he wanted. And part of that started with the pain medication he got when he got burnt on that Pepsi commercial. So, not crack is wet. That's what they say, Queen V. They say more money, more problems. Work hard. He played as hard as he could, I guess. So make sure y'all hit the like button. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. And yeah, I'm going to sleep. I'm tired. So you guys, if something else happens, then we'll be back on it. No, I don't think Juror 6 got dismissed. Let me double check something real quick on this other person's platform to see if she said anything about it. No, she ain't say anything about it. Let me see. Inner City Press. Okay, so let me pull this up real quick. So it was more on Inner City Press. So the judge said the juror indicated he moved to New Jersey with his girlfriend. It may not be permanent, but has been for the past few weeks. That was initially. There was a long break to confer. When the juror returned, the court asked, and he said 4 to 5 days a week in New York. The judge said in the robing room, he said the daughter lived in New Jersey. Then he said in the Bronx with his aunt. And the voir dire, he said he lived with his girlfriend who lives in New Jersey. These are inconsistencies. There's more in the U.S. letter. So this is what was in the letter that's not on the docket. The judge said the court does not feel further inquiries required. The reason we have alternate jurors is if questions arise where there's a question like this, removal of the juror is required. The juror will be dismissed. He should not return on Monday. So they did dismiss him. Xavier Donaldson said, let me make a record. We didn't want to inquire because it might have a chilling effect. It is very, very common to have a girlfriend in New Jersey or vice versa. He should have been allowed to explain. These jurors have been attentive. So they didn't even talk to him, I guess. Donaldson said, I'm concerned that the court is equating inconsistency with lying or hiding something from the court. If you bring him out here, we can come to some sort of understanding. He has come here every day. I've been in the court 25 or 30 years. So he's saying, I've been in the court all these years and I ain't never seen you a judge dismiss. The prosecution was very adamant to get rid of this person. So I'm assuming it was a person that seemed like they were favorable to Diddy or in their actions and demeanor. And I'm thinking, and it's a male. Remember, it's like 8 males. So, and it's a male. So one of the alternates will probably come in and you got a potential of it being a female, maybe of white persuasion. And yeah, they got what they wanted, Mo Better. I thought that he said, like, I don't see, I can use my discretion, but they were still talking about it. So apparently I just stopped inquiring into the X account too soon. So yeah, they dismissed juror number 6. So yeah. When I came to New York to go to the Southern District of New York to cover a case that I was covering, we stayed in New Jersey. That's where part of our family is. My husband is from New Jersey. So that's where we stayed at. So I understand it's literally right there. It's right there. Yeah, I think it's interesting. So he just basically said he doesn't think it was any bias based on the skin color. And I think the fact that Diddy waived this being an issue and appeal, the judge got the waiver from him that he wouldn't appeal it, basically, the decision, and then came back and said, I'm going with the government and we kicking him off. Another day. It's never a dull moment. So then Donaldson says there have been issues with the representation of African American and Hispanic jurors in this district. We taken a step with the jury. Now we're taking a step backwards. Some say Black and Hispanic jurors don't answer the call. He did. Said, y'all say Black people don't show up, and then when they do, you find a way to kick them off. So yeah, they pissed. They saying that they think it was racially based and that they're being biased. Someone else is reporting that they kept Juror. Listen, I put it on the screen. I just read it. They said don't return Monday. Ain't that what they said? Let me go back. Let's see. The court does not feel further inquiry is required. The reason we have alternate jurors is if questions arise. Where there's a question like this, removal of the juror is required. The juror will be dismissed. He should not return on Monday. That's what they said. I agree, Trey Mixon. And then they repeatedly played it on Cassie's Direct. They played it in opening, I believe, and they also played it with the person that does forensics for videos and then showed frame by frame by frame. So it was kind of like all different angles of the abuse. So yeah. And it obviously affected him getting bail as well. So I don't know, not like us. I just read what they said. Maybe they gonna fight his way back in. I don't know. 23 days of your life, and then the week before the trial is gonna end because you said you lived here and your daughter lived in New Jersey. What did they say? They said it was inconsistencies basically on where this person lived at. Let me see. In the robing room, he said the daughter lived in New Jersey. Then he said in the Bronx with his aunt. So he said, I guess he said first the daughter lived in New Jersey, then said the daughter lived. Listen, he got an address from somebody over there in New York. That's why he ended up getting called for jury duty. In the voir dire, he said he lived with his girlfriend who lives in New Jersey. These are inconsistency. There's more in the U.S. letter. So the judge basically went by what the government had to say. That's basically what it sounded like. So is New Jersey considered in the subject? Let me see. But New Jersey got their own federal court. I don't know. Like every state has their own federal court. So I don't know. It seemed like if he said he lived in New Jersey, they wouldn't have let him on the. I don't know. I don't know what to say. But it looks like he's out of here. They gave him the boot. The government wins again. You know, they're happy about it. Hi, Dr. Jonathan. Good to see you. Leo said, this is what being railroaded looks like, not that Tory BS. They don't want him to have a jury of his peers. They probably watching all of these jurors. They're watching their pages. They're watching everything so they can try to catch them up. Seeing if they post any type of inferences. They might have people follow them to make sure that they actually live where they say they live at this point. 23 days to be booted, to not be able to deliberate. That's jacked up. But anyway, thank you guys so much again for the third time for coming over here and watching the commentary. Today is Friday. So I do have a cross-examination of Jane if I do anything over the weekend, and that's probably what I would do. But I ain't making no promises, okay? But I might be back. So make sure you have your notifications on. Hit that bell so you don't miss out when I do go live. And thank you guys so much for all of the dialogue, the back and forth, the commentary, and the intellectual thought. And I'm going to holler at you guys later.